stands a monument to one of the most beloved leaders in our nation's history, Ronald Reagan. The Gipper, the great communicator, America's 40th commander-in-chief. He railed against big government.
The 9 most
Salmon Moose!
words in the English
Eyebrows
language
wonky boo.
I'm from the government and I'm here to help.
And sought peace through strength.
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
40 years
Let's
after
go.
Reagan's landslide re-election, the Republican Party
Flip the
faces
picture.
critical questions.
Good idea.
What does it mean to be a conservative?
We fight for the truth.
We are
Flip. There we go.
not going to worry about what the left and the media say about us.
What is the key to a thriving economy?
What the hell, dude?
It's innovation, not regulation.
America could do for anyone what she's done for me.
We will stop the spending. We will stop the borrowing. We will stop the earmarks.
What is America's role in the world?
We need to build a military.
Okay, we're gonna do this real quick. Boom.
To chart a new path to the grand old party.
Come on, dude. Rumble. Why are you doing this to me?
Now is the time for choosing.
Welcome to the second Republican debate of the
What the hell?
in California. We're inside the spectacular Air Force One pavilion, where the stage is set for a showdown. I'm Stuart Varney of Fox Business, and I am thrilled to be sitting alongside my co-moderators, Fox News
Enjoy
Channel Dana
smiling
Perino
face.
Thank you for
and
the 2
Ilya
gifted 2 and
Kolgarov,
subs.
Univision.
Good evening. Thank you, Stuart. President Reagan famously described America as a shining city on a hill. And tonight, 7 candidates will make the case they should be the one to lead that city into a brighter tomorrow. But first, they have to convince you, the voter. Please allow me to welcome our Spanish-speaking audience. Muy buenas noches a todos. Desde la Biblioteca Presidencial Ronald Reagan, los precandidatos republicanos también buscan su voto para las primarias del partido. Bienvenidos.
And good evening. So let's meet the candidates who have qualified and chosen to be on this stage tonight. They are positioned by the order they rank in the polls, with the highest polling candidate in the middle. Standing center stage, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis.
Flanking the governor, entrepreneur Vivek Ramaswamy, and former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley.
Next is South Carolina Senator Tim Scott and former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie.
On the wings tonight, former Vice President Mike Pence and North Dakota Governor Doug Burgum.
We have questions on a wide variety of issues important to primary voters. Candidates get 1 minute to answer and 30 seconds to respond if singled out. When their time runs out, we'll all hear this. We have a lot of ground to cover, so please keep it civilized.
Let's get going. We are in this spacious, sunny place tonight, designed to reflect the very nature and character of Ronald Reagan. It's a place that makes you proud to be an American. Yet today our nation is drowning in division and incivility.
Voters say they dread the 2024 election and find politics exhausting. 2 in 3 Americans think the country is on the wrong track.
Hey,
and
Saint
3
Dharma.
in 4 say the economy is not in good shape.
Prices are up 18% since 2020. More than half of the U.S. population has little access to childcare. 85% of Americans say their personal finances are a source of stress.
Americans want to believe a leader who says...
Why is it backward? It's because Content ID has a harder time with flipped images.
You can follow me. I've got you. Don't worry. President Biden is trying to do that with Bidenomics.
And yesterday, he joined the picket lines where auto workers are demanding more wages and job security. Senator Scott, you recently reacted by praising Ronald Reagan for firing air traffic controllers in the 1980s, saying, "You strike, you're fired." Would you fire thousands of striking auto workers today, Senator?
Obviously, the President of the United States cannot fire anybody in the private sector. However, we should look back at the first bill in Congress under Joe Biden. The first bill had $86 billion for the union pensions because they continue to overpromise yet underdeliver. One of the challenges that we have in the current negotiations is that they want 4-day French work weeks, but more money. They want more benefits, working fewer hours. That is simply not going to stand. I sat in a finance
By the way, I love that he's like,
when a widow came before the committee who was promised pensions from the unions.
Bruh, this has nothing to do with you.
$4,000 a month. Unfortunately, it had been cut to $1,000 a month. We must make sure that we honor the commitments that we make, and one of the ways that we do that, do not overpromise and then underdeliver and leave the taxpayers on the hook. I'll say this, Joe Biden should not be on the picket line. He should be on the southern border working to close our southern border.
Alternatively, companies should honor their promises to their workers, which auto manufacturers categorically did not. They said that they were going to return to status quo when making cuts during the pandemic, and they never did because they saw it as an opportunity to permanently cut wages for their workers.
Because it is unsafe, wide open, and insecure, leading to the deaths of 70,000 Americans in the last 12 months because of fentanyl. It is devastating. Every county in America is now a border county because fentanyl has devastated Americans in every single state. I will also say 6 million illegal crossings since Joe Biden has taken office. And he eliminated Title 42. The one thing he should do is finish the wall, reinstate Title 42, and get the job done.
Well, I can promise you that we are going to have a lot of questions on the border and immigration, but in the meantime, we do want to talk about the economy and jobs.
I promise that we'll talk about the border, but nobody asked about that right now, sir.
And especially want to talk about this strike for just a moment more. Mr. Ramaswamy, you've said you really empathize with the strikers. You're standing next to Senator Scott. And do you agree with what he said, or do you think he's wrong?
I agree with some of what he said, for sure. I like the spirit of it. I'll say that I don't have a lot of patience for the union bosses. I think that's where he and I actually have a common view. I do have a lot of sympathy for the workers, however. People are going through real hardship in this country. I've been through hardship growing up. My father stared down layoffs at GE under Jack Welch's tenure at the GE plant in Evendale, Ohio. My mom had to work overtime in nursing homes in Southwest Ohio to make ends meet and pay off our home loan. So I understand that hardship is not a choice, but victimhood is a choice. And we choose to be victorious in the United States of America. You know what, if I was giving advice to those workers, I would say go picket in front of the White House in Washington, D.C.
Yes, because as we all know, the president is the person who sets the wages for the auto workers. Yeah, that's exactly how it works, yep.
That's really where the protest needs to be. Disastrous economic policies that have driven up prices, that have driven up interest rates and mortgage rates, at the same time wages remaining stagnant. What we need...
I wonder who's responsible for the wages remaining stagnant, Vivek. Rhymes with cake. I wonder.
Is to deliver economic growth in this country, unlock American energy, drill, frack, burn coal, embrace nuclear energy, put people back to work.
We should embrace nuclear.
Paying them more money to stay at home, stabilize the U.S. dollar itself, and rescind a majority of those unconstitutional federal regulations that are hampering our economy. That is how we unleash American exceptionalism. And that's not a Democratic vision or a Republican vision. That is an American vision that we embrace economic growth, and capitalism is still the best system known to man to lift us up from poverty, and we should not apologize for it. That's what
At least until more people hear about socialism. Am I right, Vivek? The cake?
what it means to be an American.
More like Vivek, let them eat cake. Boom, nailed it.
Together, the CEOs of General Motors, Ford, and Stellantis make 336 times the number of number of rank-and-file workers. That's just part of a wider income inequality trend in the country.
Very
the
nice,
richest
Doug. Thank you for gifting a sub.
now controls 1/5 of all income. Vice President Pence, last week you said you side with American workers, but you also support how these companies operate. Which is it?
Well, thank you for the question. I want to thank Univision and Fox Business for assembling such a wonderful forum. Look, I do disagree with something Tim Scott just said. Joe Biden doesn't belong on a picket line. He belongs on the unemployment line.
Oh, damn.
I mean, look, I'm from the second leading
He
manufacturing
spent so
state in the country
long
per capita.
practicing that
I was
one.
governor of the state of Indiana. We brought 12,000 factories back to America during our administration. I know something about manufacturing. And I got to tell you, while the union bosses are talking about class warfare and talking about disparity
Mike Pence is just happy to be
in
there.
wages, I have to tell you, I really believe what's driving that is Bidenomics has failed. Wages are not keeping up with inflation. Auto workers and all American workers are feeling it.
I have to emphasize the question. Who are the people in charge of the wages keeping up with inflation? The people who are currently racking in record profits in the billions of dollars? Oh man, that's crazy, dog. I wonder who. Who could it be?
Families are struggling in this economy. And Joe Biden's Green New Deal agenda is good for Beijing and bad for Detroit. We ought to repeal the Green New Deal, get rid of the mandates and subsidies that are driving American gasoline, automotive manufacturing into the graveyard. And beyond that also, as president...
Wait. Is his implication here that China is exporting cars to America? Because last I checked, that's really not a viable thing to do, because we prevent foreign cars from really being sold here with massive tariffs.
President of the United States, I'll be standing with workers all across America, and I'll be standing for the right to work of every American to join a union or not join a union as they decide.
Senator Scott, you were mentioned. Will you care to respond?
There's no doubt that Joe Biden needs to be fired. That's why I'm running for president. I look forward to being the next president of the United States. I will also say, I know America can do for anyone what she's done for me. It's why we're focusing on restoring hope, creating opportunities, and protecting the America we all love. Growing up in a single-parent household, I wondered if the American dream would work for a kid in the inner city. I've got good news for every single child. Whether you're in the inner cities of Chicago or the rural parts of Iowa, America and the dream, it is alive, it is well, and it is healthy. God bless these United States of America.
Governor Haley, you raise your hand.
Man, finally all of those inner city kids will be thrilled to know that nothing fundamentally has changed and they're still economically trapped in the gutter.
I think we need to look at exactly what happened. Biden showed up on that picket line, but why are those workers actually there? It's because of all of the spending that he has pushed through in the economy that's raised the inflation. So when you look at the fact that we are paying higher gas prices, higher grocery prices, $7,000 more a year for families, what we need to do is I came out with an economic plan, eliminate the gas and diesel tax so that they have more money in their pocket. Let's focus on going after middle America and cutting taxes for middle America and collapsing those brackets. Let's get rid of unfair distortions like the state and local tax that they give to wealthy people in blue states and paid by red states. And let's make sure we make the small business taxes permanent. They only made those temporary. They made the corporate taxes permanent. Let's focus on what it takes to get more cash in the pockets of workers. That's when we'll be able to deal with strikes like this, not sitting on a picket line like Joe Biden is.
I love how they're all attacking him for going to the picket line and fighting for wage increases for working Americans. This is actually incredible. All of them are basically being like, I can't believe that lazy, good-for-nothing Joe Biden is just sitting on the picket line. As if, like, that has no historical significance. As if him advocating for workers to be paid more is a bad thing. While trying simultaneously to spin it as if, like, he's like, the devil for advocating workers be paid more. It's honestly incredible.
Thank you, Governor Haley. We have other questions to get to about economy. Allow me to.
I just have to. I'm sorry.
Allow me to.
I'm sorry. I have to jump in because we're missing the point, and every other network is missing the point. The reason why people are striking in Detroit,
I forgot about this guy,
is because Joe Biden's interference with capital markets and with free markets. The subsidies, we're subsidizing the automakers and we're subsidizing the cars, and a particular kind of car, not every car. We're subsidizing electric vehicles. And when you decide that we're going to take all of your taxpayer monies, take $1 billion, subsidize a certain type of vehicle, and the batteries come from China, China controls...
Wait, we currently subsidize the fossil fuel industry, bruh. What are you talking about? We're subsidizing. You're scaremongering about us buying like batteries when we have like literal gigafactories manufacturing car batteries in the United States. But like, meanwhile, the billions upon billions upon billions that get sent to the Saudi Arabian government, which again is a monarchy. Nothing needs to be said about that. Nothing needs to be said about that. Nothing needs to be said about how the American government and taxpayer dollars bailed out auto manufacturers, and now they are making billions upon billions of dollars in profit at the expense of their workers. No. It's oh, well, you know, if we spend some money on not spewing toxic fumes into the atmosphere, that's a step too far because China might sell us some things.
85% of the rare earth minerals, they're called rare earth because they're measured in parts per million. China is moving 100,000 pounds of earth in Indonesia, in Africa. They're literally destroying the planet so that they can make a battery that's in a car subsidized.
Wait, is that true, Bluestone? Did we just discover like the world's largest supply of lithium in Nevada? Lithium, Nevada. Because that'd be pretty cool. News. Oh wow, yeah. Like two weeks ago. Lithium discovery in crater in Nevada could be biggest deposit ever found. That's pretty cool. The caldera reserves, the McDermott caldera reserves are almost 700% larger, 400 million metric tons, 13 million more than the known reserves of every lithium-producing mine on Earth. Holy moly. Okay, well that's pretty cool. Good job, America.
Here, that's why they're striking, because they need 2/3 less workers to build an electric car.
Oh, so I'm sorry. The inverted screen did not help you there. I'm so sorry.
Joe Biden. This strike is at Joe Biden's feet.
We're going to keep the topic of economy, but allow me to follow question to Governor Christie. The government will shut down if Congress does not reach a deal by the end of this week. Vice President Pence warns that politics of, quote, Trump's populist proteges, like Mr. Ramaswamy, are a road to ruin for the GOP. If the government shuts down, should voters blame populist Republicans?
Voters should blame everybody who's in Washington, D.C.
But especially the Republicans.
They get sent down there to do the job, and they've been failing at doing the job for a very long time. And let's be honest about this with the voters. You know, during the Trump administration, they added $7 trillion. $7 trillion in national debt. And now the Biden administration has put another $5 trillion on and counting. They have failed, and they're in the spot they're in now because none of them are willing to tell the truth. None of them are willing to take on the difficult issues. They just want to keep kicking the can down the road. And the inflation that Nikki spoke about is absolutely right, and it's caused by government spending. And that's why people all across this country are suffering tonight. And yet we don't get any answers because Joe Biden hides in his basement and won't answer as to why he's raising the debt the way he's done. And Donald Trump hides behind the walls of his golf clubs and won't show up here to answer questions like all the rest of us are up here to answer. He put $7 trillion on the debt. He should be in this room to answer those questions for the people you talk about who are suffering. And if the government closes, it's the blame. It is to the blame of everyone in Washington, D.C., who has failed to do their job and just plays to the grandstand.
The next question is for Governor DeSantis.
They are so mad. Look at you can see him smugly smiling and sitting back on the podium while like 5 people talk at once. That was, you know what, I'm here for Chris Christie lobbing Molotov cocktails into this debate, honestly.
Can we please respect the time?
We can get it done.
Governor DeSantis, you haven't spoken.
Yes, he is blaming Biden for not coming to the Republican debate. He's doing that, yeah.
Please.
The people in Washington are shutting down the American dream with their reckless behavior. They borrowed, they printed, they spent, and now you're paying more for everything. They are the reason for that. They have shut down our national sovereignty by allowing our border to be wide open. So please spare me the crocodile tears for these people. They need to change what's going on. And where's Joe Biden? He's completely missing in action from leadership. And you know who else is missing in action? Donald Trump is missing in action. He should be on this stage
shots
tonight.
fired.
He owes it to you to defend his record where they added $7.8 trillion to the debt. That set the stage for the inflation that we have now. I can tell you this is
Okay, very clearly one of his advisors told him he needed to be more aggressive on Trump this time. Last time they were all afraid to take punches at Trump. I think this might change. This might signal the change here.
Governor of Florida, we cut taxes, we ran surpluses, we've paid down over 25% of our state debt, and I vetoed wasteful spending when it came to my desk. And as your president, when they send me a bloating spending bill that's going to cause your prices to go up, I'm going to take out this veto pen and I'm going to send it right back to them.
Did he bring a prop? Did he bring a fucking prop? That's amazing.
Question that is on the minds of a lot of moms and dads and Americans, and I know that you've been thinking about it because childcare costs, they are up. They're topping $10,000 per month. Some families are spending up to half of their income on childcare, and they're having to decide, is it worth it for me to work, or does it not make sense for me financially?
They get pens and paper for notes.
In 3 days, the billions of dollars in pandemic-era funding is going to end, and 70,000
That's less fun than he brought a prop.
could close. So you had an effort to broaden eligibility for child care assistance. That fell apart last year. And for the moms and dads out there who are worried, what can you tell them if you weren't able to get it through the Congress? How could you do it as president?
Certainly one of the things I did as a member of Congress was to make sure that we protected the Head Start programs around the country, giving people the opportunity to pick and choose the place that they send their children. The challenges that we see today under the Biden administration is that the cost for daycare has gone over $15,000 per child. In the Build Back Broker plan, he called it a Build Back Better plan, it was going up to
Damn. Good line, Tim Scott. You got him.
$29,000. The way we fix that problem is to make sure that we actually cut taxes and give more Americans their money back. When I helped write the tax cut.
What? I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Tim. Who is making so much money and struggling to make ends meet with childcare that they're going to save $29,000 in tax cuts? What are you talking about? That's not a thing that helps any working person.
Cuts and Jobs Act, we actually lowered a single mother's taxes by 70% on the federal level. For dual income households by 60%. Then we went a step further. We doubled the child tax credit and made it refundable. By doing that, more parents had more resources to make the decisions how to take care of their family. The one thing we should do is let the American people keep their money. When that happens, the greatest opportunities rise from the ashes.
That doesn't help them afford childcare. That doesn't solve the problem of ballooning costs for childcare, Tim.
Give you 15 seconds. Go ahead. And never going to the border.
Ilya mischaracterized a part of my view. I think this artificial division is unhelpful in our party. The real divide is not between the Republicans on this stage. And in the Reagan Library, I want to say these are good people on this stage. The real divide is between the majority of us in this country who love the United States of America and share our founding ideals. Free speech, meritocracy, the idea you get ahead in this country, not in the color of your skin.
Yeah, that dude's raising his hand to be called on.
And the fringe minority in the Democrat Party that has a chokehold over that party. That's the real divide. Right. So this populist versus classical debate is artificial. Ilya? We need to unite this party.
Can I speak about the administration? I want to answer the question on immigration and the border. Child care. We have
I think we're going to go on. You have to. We have all these questions. We're going to get to you. We're going to come back to you. There's a lot of time.
They're not. You need to throw yourself in there, bud.
In North Dakota, we knew that the cliff was coming. We knew that there was going to be millions of people without it. And so guess what? We planned.
Okay.
And when we passed legislation because child care.
We will get you some questions, but you're going to have to let us move on.
Let him speak.
Child care is
he needs to feed his children.
In 1984.
How will he ever get the appointment he needs in the Trump administration if he's not allowed to speak in this debate?
President Ronald Reagan said the following.
The idea of amnesty for those who have put down roots and who have lived here, even though some time back they may have entered illegally.
2 years later, President Reagan granted amnesty to nearly 3 million immigrants, something no Democrat or Republican president has done since. Governor Christie, as governor of a non-border state in 2010, you supported a path to citizenship. But when you ran for president in 2016, you flipped, saying immigrants should be tracked like FedEx packages. Where do you stand now on a path to citizenship for 11 million of undocumented immigrants?
Well, the problem is that since no one has done anything since we first had this discussion 13 years ago, we're not in a position to be able to do any of that anymore. What we have to do now is first treat this like the law enforcement problem it is. Our laws are being broken every day at the southern border, every day. And Joe Biden...
And as we all know from our history lessons, Operation Wetback was a huge success, and that's why, under the Christie administration, we'd be doing Operation Wetback 2, Electric Boogaloo.
And his crew is doing nothing about enforcing that law. They are letting it go, and by the way, they announced during the presidential race they were going to let it go. And
fuck Reagan.
We need to have a president who acts like I did as governor. Enforce the law, first and foremost. And that means what I'll do on day one is sign an executive order to send the National Guard to partner with Customs and Border Patrol to make sure that we stop the flow of fentanyl over the border, but also to make sure that we send a much different message. We want you here in this country to fill the 6 million vacant jobs we have, but only if you come here to follow the law. And
dude, what did I tell you? What did I tell you? Chris Christie is going to start this off by saying, "Oh, we just need to build the wall and enforce the border," and that's exactly what he's saying. I'm so excited to see if my prediction of which of these clowns escalates from here is going to be like spot on. I think I nailed it, but let's see.
And only if you come here legally. If you come here illegally, we will apprehend you and we will send you back across the border from which you came. And the fact is that until we set a law and order agenda in this country, not only now but in the future, we won't be able to continue this. And I'll tell you this. Donald Trump failed on this as well. He said he was going to build a wall across the whole border. He built 52 miles of wall and said Mexico would pay for it. Guess what? I think if Mexico knew that he was only going to build 52 miles, they might have paid for the 52 miles.
Thank you, Governor.
All right, Governor Haley. Most illegal immigrants are coming from countries south of the border. You've seen the Fox News drone. It's captured this steady stream of people coming into the country on a daily basis. In fact, I believe we have a live picture of it tonight. That is happening right now, live. In the last decade, the U.S. has spent nearly $55 billion to address the root causes of migration.
You know what we really need to spice up this debate? Live footage of people being deported for the crime of trying to come to America to work in our country.
But crime, poverty, and corruption, they persist, and the number of migrants is only growing. Are we wasting our money?
Well, what happens is when Joe Biden waved the green flag, it told everybody to come. And now we've seen 6 million people cross the border. We've had more fentanyl that have killed Americans in the Iraq, Vietnam, or Afghanistan wars combined. We need to make sure that we are a country of laws. The second we stop being a country of laws, we give up everything this country was founded on. So we have to secure the border. The way we do that is, first of all, defund sanctuary cities. You see what's happening in Philadelphia right now. It's got to stop. We need to make sure we put 25,000.
What's happening in Philadelphia? Just Philadelphia Sanctuary City news. Oh, the horror. The immigrant communities are welcome here. Philly stands strong on sanctuary as Governor Abbott sends buses from Texas. Okay, so Texas literally bussed undocumented immigrants to Philadelphia to be assholes.
Yeah, get rid of the immigrants. Florida did, and look how well they're going.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, so basically they're like, oh, everything's terrible in Philly, and Philly's like, yeah, send more of them, please.
1,000 more Border Patrol and ICE agents on the ground and let them do their job. I spent 400 miles down that border, and I'm telling you, Border Patrol agents aren't allowed to do their job. Let's go back to remain in Mexico policy. Instead of catch and release, let's go to catch and deport.
What about
and
the
let's
aid that what about the aid that federal taxpayers are paying to deal with the root causes? It's not working?
The
or is
only
it?
aid that we should be spending right now is to secure the border, the southern border, the northern border, period.
You would cut
we
off
need
aid
to
to the
keep
region?
Americans safe, and right now Americans are not safe. Only when we fix the immigration system, only when we get the border secure, should we ever look at putting any more money into this. Our money should be about keeping Americans safe. We're not doing that. Joe Biden's not doing that. And you mentioned Congress and shutting down government.
Yeah, look, Nikki Haley is really concerned about the waves of Canadian immigrants that are coming through the northern border, okay? We need to cut off aid to Ukraine to finally lock down those maple syrup swilling herds, okay, who keep coming down here with their Steven Crowders and their Justin Biebers. There we go, nailed it. Managed to think of 2 Canadians.
Make it clear, we have to change the budget process in 4 years.
And their Jordan Petersons and their shows like Bones that are probably filmed up in Canada for tax reasons.
In 40 years, Congress has only delivered a budget on time 4 times in 40 years.
Right.
If they don't keep the government open, they should not get paid. No pay, no budget. That's the way we should.
Governor DeSantis,
oh, come on.
DeSantis, we have a question for you. Governor DeSantis, China invested $12 billion in Latin America just last year. They signed a strategic...
Also, do you guys think that when these people say, oh, we're sending so much monetary aid to Ukraine, do they not realize that, like, the aid that's being sent to Ukraine isn't just, like, money? Like, it's military equipment valued at, like, X amount of money. Like, it doesn't translate to like, oh man, we could just yeah, let's just spend these armored personnel carriers like their money. No, that's not how that works.
Partnerships with 7 countries, including Mexico. And China's military ties to the region now include arms sales and training exercises. Are you comfortable with China deepening ties with our southern neighbors?
Of course not. And the reason why we're in this
Hey,
mess
boiled
is
peanuts.
because elites in D.C. for far too long have chosen surrender over strength when it comes to the CCP. Some people in our country got rich, our industrial base got hollowed out, and they have been able to build the second most powerful military in the entire world. We need a totally new approach to China. We are going to have real hard power in the Indo-Pacific, like Reagan, to deter their ambitions. We're going to have economic independence from China, where we're decoupling our economy.
Good luck. Good luck with that one. My man over here probably wearing like 5 things manufactured in China right now.
And we are going to go after the cultural power they have in this country. As governor of Florida, I banned the CCP from buying land in our state. We should do that all across these United States. We shouldn't have them in our universities. We shouldn't have Confucius Institutes. So you see a country in decline, our power's in decline. China's going to surpass us this decade, and if they do that, that's going to affect every single American household. As your president, I am...
Aw, Just Exo, thank you for coming all the way from YouTube to say that I'm pretty. I appreciate it.
not going to let that happen. I'm going to reverse this country's decline. We are going to choose strength, not surrender when it comes to the CCP.
America is not a country in decline. Under Joe Biden, we are a country in retreat.
You propose, quote, universal deportation for all undocumented immigrants and their children, even if the children are citizens of the United States. Under what legal premise will you expel U.S. citizens?
So the first thing I want to say is I agree with everything the Republicans on this.
Oh my God! Wait, I didn't know that quote from Vivek. Deport the children of undocumented immigrants, even if they legally count as American citizens. He's asked that question, and he's like, first of all, I'm not going to answer that question. I'm going to filibuster that until you got to move on. Time to go.
Stage are on the right side of this issue. Militarize the southern border, stop funding sanctuary cities, and end foreign aid to Mexico and Central America to end the incentives to come across.
Wait, what? End any foreign aid we're sending to Mexico or Latin America? How would that end incentives to come across the border at all? It just makes things shittier in their home countries, which incentivizes them to come here.
But I do go a step further. You're right about that, Ilya. I favor ending birthright citizenship for the kids of illegal immigrants in this country. Now, the left will howl about the Constitution and the 14th Amendment. The difference between me and them is I've actually read the 14th Amendment. What it says is that all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the laws and jurisdiction thereof are citizens. So nobody believes that the kid of a Mexican diplomat in this country enjoys birthright citizenship. Not a judge or legal scholar in this country will disagree with me on that.
What? Well, wait. No, they absolutely would. If that kid was born in the United States, it would have citizenship. If like that diplomat gives birth at an American hospital on American soil, they're an American citizen. What? Come on, dude. Bro, there is no point in the Constitution where people are like, yeah, you're a citizen if you're born here. Unless, no, it's just if you're born here. That's what birthright citizenship is. And like what you're proposing is just getting rid of that as a concept and creating a new legal framework to determine who is and is not a citizen. Again, and I need to be clear, I know we laugh at Vivek Ramaswamy, but he is a fascist. You know, this is like, you know, the idea that, oh, well, we need to restrict voters. You know, it starts with, oh, undocumented, the children of undocumented immigrants. Then it goes to, you know, maybe certain minority groups shouldn't vote. You know, maybe people without land shouldn't be able to vote. And then you're like, well, you know, fundamentally, women shouldn't be able to vote either because back in the day, the Constitution was designed for white men who owned land. And, like, you know, it can be rolled all the way back. No. We live in a democracy, sir. And in a democracy, people born here get a say in how we run things here. When they live here and vote here. That's how that works. Sounds like a great way to create stateless persons. Yeah, and if you create enough stateless persons, well, since they don't have a state, they don't have any protections, and you can do what you want with them.
Well, if the kid of a Mexican diplomat doesn't enjoy birthright citizenship, then neither does the kid of an illegal migrant who broke the law to come here. And as the father of 2 sons, it is hard for me to look them in the eye and say, you have to follow the law when our own government fails to follow its own laws. That's how we really go the distance and solve this problem and restore the rule of law in the United States of America, because that is part of what it even means to be an American.
Senator Scott, you oppose ending.
But also, generally speaking, like when he's talking about like the children of diplomats, like there are like certain exceptions for certain children of certain diplomats because they are here acting as agents of their state, so they are under their state's jurisdiction, like, and their embassy, you know, et cetera, have like special rules. But generally speaking, nah, if you're like a Canadian couple in America on a holiday and your child gets born in the United States, that child has citizenship in the United States. That's generally how it works. That's fine.
Birthright citizenship. What does Mr. Ramaswamy have wrong on that issue?
Yeah, there's no doubt the fact that when you think of the Constitution and the 14th Amendment, it was certainly written as it relates to slavery, not as it relates to illegal immigration. It's been applied to illegal immigration. So the challenge that we face is, in fact, one that has to do with whether or not the people that come here are under the jurisdiction of our laws. And frankly, if you come here illegally, you are not. Now,
Okay, so if you come here illegally, you're not under the jurisdiction of the laws of America. Just pausing real quick to point out how insane this is, right? Like, oh, okay, so undocumented immigrants who come here aren't under the jurisdiction of the United States laws. Oh, does that mean undocumented immigrants can just, like, murder people? And then, like, if they get arrested and brought into court, they can be like, sorry, judge, I'm not a citizen of the United States. And the judge just has to go, damn, well played, sir. I was about to throw you in prison for life, but you know what? You're an undocumented immigrant. You basically have diplomatic immunity. Time to do crimes. Yeah, time. You know, the undocumented immigrants are just running around doing Mad Max end of the world apocalypse shit. These fucks would argue they already do murder. Well, yeah, but none of these people would say that if an undocumented immigrant murders an American citizen, they shouldn't be prosecuted because they're not under the jurisdiction of American law.
So surviving a Supreme Court argument is something I can't tell you. But from a perspective of the Constitution, I think it's simple, that clearly it was designed for slavery and not for illegal immigration. I'll go one step further, though. When we have a conversation about the things that are happening on this stage, we think about the fact that Vivek just said we were all good people, and I appreciate that, because last debate, he said we were all bought and paid for. And I thought about that for a little while and said, you know, I can't imagine how you could say that knowing that you were just in business with the Chinese Communist Party and the same people that funded Hunter Biden millions of dollars was a partner of yours as well. It's not nonsense.
So look, here's what I want to respond. These are good people.
I can't believe Tim Scott just made a question about whether or not we should have birthright citizenship into, but you're taking money from the Chinese Communist Party. Like, what? Yo, the amount of, like, mental gymnastics going on right now is incredible. This is my Olympics right here.
People who are tainted by a broken system, and it's not the fault of anybody who's involved.
Some of us are tainted.
Excuse me. Thank you for speaking while I'm interrupting while I'm speaking.
No, you said
if I may finish.
Ooh, gotta love the hog-on-hog violence.
You can't be on both sides.
Gentlemen, you'll have your turn.
One of the challenges we should have.
Please focus on the issues that matter. We know we did business in China. Everybody knows.
Chris Christie's face over here, kind of like in his like a sassy little like oh, just like a sassy little
If I may address,
focus on holding Joe Biden accountable. That's what we need to be focusing on.
I actually agree with Ron DeSantis.
Everybody speaking at the same time, no one can understand
Exactly.
your message.
So if I may, I agree with Ron DeSantis on China. When every other CEO expanded into the Chinese market, you know what I did with my first company? We opened a subsidiary in China. But you know what I did that was different than every other company? We got the hell out of there. And when I started my next company, Strive, right when that's years ago. 2023. Right when I started my next company.
But again, always worth noting that Vivek Ramaswamy became as wealthy as he is by basically doing a pump and dump on speculation around an Alzheimer's drug that he realized was not going to work. And so he just sold all of his shares right before the ineffectiveness of the drug became public knowledge.
Strive to compete against BlackRock. Excuse me.
No.
To compete against BlackRock, I made a commitment that we would never do business in China. And I will say something.
I think you have more than time to explain your point.
Well, if I was interrupted by a lot of people here, and I want to be respectful because I believe these
you
are
weren't
good
respectful
people,
last debate.
but I do not believe in these. We're sitting here in the Reagan Library.
Yes, I wish you
in
did
the
not think it
honor
was
of
midnight
Ronald
in
Reagan's
America.
library. If I may, from one admirer of Ronald Reagan to another. From one
Fight.
admirer of Reagan to another, we cannot sit here and violate
4 years ago. This isn't productive.
I want to hear about that.
Let's have a policy.
I feel like if you pushed Vivek like this for like another 2 minutes, he'd start throwing fists. I want a fist fight in this debate. Let's go.
Understand what's going on.
Let us have a policy debate.
Let's have about their records.
Let's have a policy debate. And the right answer is we need to declare independence from China, and I will see that through.
Vice President Pence, in 2017, the Trump-Pence administration canceled DACA, which put the legal status of 600,000 dreamers in the hands of the courts. Dreamers work and they pay taxes. As president, if the Supreme Court
Urban
ends
barbarian,
DACA, would you work with Congress to reach a permanent solution for dreamers?
Well, first, let me say I'm glad Vivek pulled out of his business deal in 2018 in China. That must have been about the time you decided to start voting in presidential elections. So we're nice to have you participating in elections. So let me speak to this issue. Number one,
I do really enjoy how they've all just collectively decided to shit on Vivek.
I negotiated the Remain in Mexico policy with the Mexican government. We used economic power to bring the Mexican government to the table. We built hundreds of miles of border wall, and despite what's said here today, we reduced illegal immigration and asylum abuse by 90%. And as President of the United States, I can do it again. And the truth is we need to fix a broken immigration system, and I'll do that as well. But first and foremost, a nation without borders is not a nation. And we have to secure the southern border of the United States of America. I know how to do it, and we will do it again. Let me say one other thing about China. Let me say one other thing about China.
Would you negotiate with Congress to give a solution to the problem that dreamers have right now? They are on a limbo.
Well, let me tell you, I served in Congress for 12 years, although it seemed longer. But you know, something I've done different than everybody on this stage is I've actually secured reform in Congress. You know, Ron, you talk a really good game about cutting spending, but you've increased spending in Florida by 30%. When I was a member of Congress in 2006, right after Hurricane Katrina, Dana, you remember it.
I'm not gonna lie, this is kind of Mike Pence coming in with a steel chair in the most boring possible way.
We stood our ground. I led House conservatives. We cut $100 billion out of the federal budget. It can be done, but as I said in the last debate, I'll say again, this is no time for on-the-job training. I'm going to be ready on day one to get Congress to step up, secure the southern border of the United States, build a military fitted to our times, and we're going to get spending in Washington, D.C. under control once and for all.
And as we all know, once we control the southern border, the Canadians will come for our northern border with their maple syrup laced with fentanyl. And soon you'll be seeing stories about cops putting maple syrup on their donuts in the morning, only to realize they've been poisoned. Poisoned with the drug known as fentanyl.
Other side of this break, and I propose to go to a break. How will these candidates make America safer as rising crime plagues our cities? Debate night continues in moments.
Debate night, baby. Yeah, the maple donuts.
Do you trust our government and where the economy is heading?
Oh, I
Does the
forgot.
thought of losing your hard-earned...
I forgot about the far right ads that they run during this. This is gonna be great.
Smart Americans are taking action while they still can by reaching out to Birch Gold Group. For
Have
over
you ever
20
considered
years,
investing
Birch
in
Has
gold?
helped concerned Americans protect
We'll help
their
you
futures
bury it in
by
your
moving part of
backyard.
an existing IRA or 401k into a physical gold IRA. Because when things are a mess,
Oh my
like
God, dude.
right now, Americans turn to gold. With an A+ rating,
Have you
with the Better
considered
Business Bureau,
investing in
and
gold
thousands of happy
doubloons?
customers,
We'll help you
Birch Gold
live
is
like a
the
pirate
trusted
in the
leader in
18
gold. They're
in the
busier than ever, because
1810s.
people are taking control of their savings away from the government and into their own hands. Text the word NOW to the number 989898 to get a free info kit on gold.
Have you ever wanted to live like Scrooge McDuck? We'll help you fulfill those dreams. And then you'll also have the money to pay your medical bills from attempting to dive into a pool of solid gold.
There's no pressure and no obligation, just information. So get your no-cost info kit now. Text NOW to 989898.
Also, chat, if you are enjoying the stream, please hit the like button. Especially over on YouTube, hit the like button. Please subscribe and consider hitting the follow button over on Twitch. I'd very, very much appreciate it. And if you're enjoying the chat and want to be in the on-screen chat, you can come over to riverboat.gg. And if you are enjoying the stream, again, please consider dropping some subs or donos, because that is what actually helps to keep me alive. So please, please consider doing that.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America.
Wait, was this the 9/11 coffee ad?
You're looking at the World Trade Center. We understand that
It's the 9/11 coffee ad! Do you remember 9/11? Do you remember when we invaded Iraq and Afghanistan? Buy our coffee. This is a fucking ad for coffee, dude. It's for the Black Rifle Coffee Company. Dude. Dude. Rumble Cloud. Soldiers don't carry a flag on their backs. You do if you're a patriot, Gamer G. Honestly, more companies need to use 9/11 to sell their products. Do you remember 9/11? Pepperidge Farm remembers. Remember when you were eating them as a comfort food while watching the Twin Towers fall and crumble and thousands of people perish? We remember. Eat more Pepperidge Farm.
Win 2 free tickets to a future debate. Plus, we'll throw in free airfare and hotel. 2 debate tickets, airfare, and hotel, all free. Text 80810 to enter to win today.
Trojans remember 9/11. Who can have kids in this fucked up world?
And welcome back to the Reagan Library. primary for the second Republican presidential debate. I do want to just remind everyone, there's 1 minute for questions, 30 seconds for a follow-up, and the more you mention each other, that means the fewer questions you're going to get. Okay, so we want to talk about crime. This has been a horrendous problem in our country. The Fox News and others have been covering it. Governor Christie, crime in major cities is striking fear into the hearts of Americans. Just last night, looters took over the streets of Philadelphia. You said in the last debate that you would use U.S. attorneys to prosecute crimes local prosecutors won't. But they are stretched as well, and they could not handle all of the lawlessness, the shoplifting, all the carjackings, the armed robberies. They're all surging.
To be clear, there are thresholds of when they start to prosecute you. If you're shoplifting like shampoo and food, they're not going to prosecute you. If you're shoplifting like several $100s worth of items, yeah, they're going to arrest you for that. They're like that's just how it operates. The idea that like this is causing companies to run out of business is pretty absurd.
Progressive prosecutors were elected by their constituents, and they can't be fired by a president. So what would you do to end the revolving door of criminality?
Well, look, Dana, I'm the only one on this stage who's done it. For 7 years, I ran the 5th largest office in this country at the U.S. Attorney's Office in New Jersey, and we set records for the number of prosecutions that we brought that still have not been broken. And the reason was that we went after the crime that was affecting people's lives. And as president, I will appoint an attorney general and instruct that attorney general that you are to put all the resources that are necessary to bring our cities back under control. The fact is, they will be stretched. There's no doubt about that, but that's what they take the job for, because they love the idea of enforcing the law. We've got to bring...
But by the way, there's less crime now than there was like 3 years ago. Like what? This narrative that crime is just spiking uncontrollably is wild.
Law and order back to this country, and not just in our cities, but we need law and order back everywhere. We need law and order back in our suburbs. People are threatened there. We need it in our rural areas. People feel threatened there. And we need it in Washington, D.C. also. And Donald Trump should be here to answer for that, but he's not. And I want to look at that camera right now and tell you, Donald, I know you're watching. You can't help yourself. I know you're watching, okay? And you're not here tonight. Not because of polls and not because of your indictments. You're not here tonight because you're afraid of being on the stage and defending your record. You're ducking these things. And let me tell you what's going to happen. You keep doing that, no one up here is going to call you Donald Trump anymore. We're going to call you Donald Duck.
All right. I want to ask Governor DeSantis, you fired a couple of prosecutors in your state, but as as president, you would not have the ability to do that. How do you think about dealing with the root causes of crime, especially this revolving door of the criminals that just get out and come back and commit another crime?
Well, the crime in these cities is one of the strongest signs of the decaying of America. We can't be successful as a country if people aren't even safe to live in places like Los Angeles and San Francisco. Just being in Southern California over the last couple of days, my wife and I have met 3 people who have been mugged on the street, and that would have never happened 10 or 20 years ago.
Yeah, you'd never hear about anyone being mugged 20 years ago. No one would ever get mugged 20 years ago. What are you talking about, dude?
In Florida, we back the blue. We support the men and women of law enforcement. They are keeping us safe. We have a 50-year low in the crime rate. And yes, when I had 2 progressive prosecutors that weren't following the law in Florida, I removed them from their posts, and the people of Florida are safer as a result of it. As president, I will use the Justice Department to bring civil rights cases against all of those left-wing Soros-funded prosecutors. We're not going to let them get away with it anymore. We want to reverse this country's decline. We need to choose law and order over rioting and disorder.
On a related subject, Governor Haley, there's a nationwide policing shortage. Retirements are up, recruitment is in the tank, and morale is at a record low. 3 years ago, you signed a pledge to support law enforcement. Now, pledges are a nice idea, but what's your actual plan to get more police on our streets?
Well, and I actually did it in South Carolina, too. You know, what we knew in South Carolina was you take care of those who take care of you. We have to start taking care of law enforcement, but it's not just taking care of them with words. It's making sure that you also follow through on what they do. Right now, we have a lot of stolen guns on the street. Well, these law enforcement officers, they arrest these people, and then they go and they're let out the very next day. So law enforcement feels like no one has their back. We have to start prosecuting according to the law. We have to make sure we have the backs of law enforcement, and we have to make sure that we're a country of law and order. But I want to go back to China because I don't think we spent enough time on that. Right now, we have to look at what government's doing to hurt us against China, too. You have a company, U.S. Antibiotics, that produces amoxicillin, the #1 antibiotic that we need. And right now, there is a company in Bristol, Tennessee, that produces that. Yet our federal government only gets it from China. We need to be focusing on companies that produce in America and supporting those companies that produce in America, not companies that are helping China.
Governor, we will be talking foreign policy later. Delia?
Yes. Thank you, Stuart. We're going to stay in the topic of crime because it affects all of us. Governor Burgum, for the first time ever, a Univision poll found that mass shootings and gun safety are one of the most important issues for Latino voters. Mental health concerns are not unique to the United States, but gun violence is. What is your specific plan?
But by the way, the current homicide rate has been plummeting. So, just as an FYI.
To curb gun violence.
Well, first we need to understand is I think that the liberal left seems to be just completely bent on prosecuting law-abiding citizens that are gun owners, because every solution they have to this is take away the Second Amendment rights of Americans, and somehow that's going to solve the problem. But all these cities that we're talking about that you showed the videos of tonight, they have some of the strictest gun laws in the country. So we know that that's not what's working. But what we have to do is get back to the core issues about the family. We have to get back to behavioral health and mental health. We've got to get back to actually enforcing the laws these people talked about. And like we've done in North Dakota, where we've got the goal and we're on the track to being the most military-friendly state in the nation. We've got the most military and the most support of what we're doing in terms of law enforcement, because the morale is down because we've been defunding the police, because they've been attacked in the press.
Where? Motherfucker, cite your sources. Where are these massive defundings of the police? Please, cite your goddamn sources. You lying asshole.
The police have become the bad guys when they're the one. There's all these jobs available in America. Why would you be a policeman if people don't even respect them?
Because they make money hand over fist. That's why.
Time I see a policeman, the first thing I say is thank you. And so does everybody else in my family and most of the people in our state, because they know we have to respect the people that are out there defending us every single day.
Can I answer the question on mass shootings?
I need to use the bathroom real quick. I'm very, very sorry, but I'll be right back, okay? We have so many things to talk about today, but we're in the middle of the Republican GOP debate. Let's keep going. And, folks, just want to say thank you for being here. We're going to keep on trucking, and let's go. Hi, Kairyu. Also, consider dropping some subs or donos as the stream continues. Let's go.
Mr. Ramaswamy, according to Customs and Border Protection, about 90% of fentanyl is seized at official border crossings, and 57% of the smugglers are U.S. citizens. How would you stop fentanyl brought into the country, mostly by U.S. citizens, through ports of entry?
There's two sides to this, and we have to be very
honest
about
LANHD.
One is we do have to seal that southern border. Building the wall is not enough. They're building cartel-financed tunnels underneath that wall. Semi-trucks can drive through them.
Okay, but also they primarily ship drugs by air, like in airplanes or in boats, you know, going around walls or over walls. And fentanyl is so powerful it can be shipped very discreetly. Like what are you talking about, dude? Like they don't even need that infrastructure. All they need is like a t-shirt cannon to fire like pouches of drugs over the wall. What are you talking about? This is such a five-head solution to a problem, and it is not actually going to fix any of the problems.
We have to use our own military to seal the Swiss cheese of a southern border, but we also have to be honest. There's a demand-side problem in this country, too, a mental health epidemic. I met family in Iowa, two parents, Kathy and Derek. They lost their son, Sebastian, 17 years old. He bought Percocet on Snapchat, and then he died. Why did he die? Because it was laced with fentanyl. That is closer to bioterrorism, not a drug overdose. That is poisoning. So it is our job to make sure that never happens. But it's also our job to make sure...
Also, kids, don't buy your drugs off of Snapchat.
...that 17-year-olds don't turn to Percocet via Snapchat. We have to bring back mental health care in this country, not with pump-in pharmaceuticals, but with faith-based approaches.
Yes, let's bring back mental health care. Let's look at what mental health care has looked like with faith-based institutions. Oh, you're sad? Pray away your sadness. Oh, you are schizophrenic? Clearly God is speaking through you. Oh, you're gay? Well, let's just beat you until you're straight. Oh man, the wonders of faith-based healthcare.
That restore purpose and meaning in the next generation of Americans.
Also, just to note, purpose and meaning do not cure mental illness. Actually, those don't cure anxiety disorders. They don't cure depression. They don't cure, ADHD. It doesn't actually help to like instill people with meaning and purpose when their primary issues are mental health disorders.
Of them are getting it through social media. And this isn't a Republican point or a Democrat point, but if you're 16 years old or under, you should not be using an addictive social media product, period. This is something that we can both agree on, and we can revive both the mental health of this country while stopping the fentanyl epidemic that will kill more people this year than who died on 9/11. And I refuse to be a passive bystander sitting in the White House like the hollowed out husk of a current president we have. We will step up and address this problem.
Damn, that's crazy that these people really, really deeply care about, numbers of people more than 9/11 dying. And yet, if you ask any of them about COVID restrictions, they'll be like, yeah, no, those should have been eased up a long time ago. Despite the fact over 1 million people have died from COVID in the United States.
Stand for Americans and our children.
Encouraging TikTok. Quit encouraging TikTok.
That is why, everything he said I agree with. That is why, as Commander-in-Chief, I'm going to use the U.S. military to go after the Mexican drug cartels.
Oh, excellent. We've arrived to the point of the debate night where Ron DeSantis advocates for invading Mexico.
They are killing our people. And the stories that I've seen in Florida, we had an infant, 18 months. Parents rented an Airbnb. And apparently the people that had rented it before were using drugs. The infant was crawling, the toddler was crawling on the carpet and ingested fentanyl residue and died. Are we just going to sit here and let this happen, this carnage happen in our country? I am not going to do that.
Citation needed? What? Oh, a baby was crawling on the carpet and it snorted fentanyl and died. What?
So I guarantee you on day one, this border is going to be a day one issue for me as president. We're going to declare it a national emergency. Yes, we'll build the wall. We'll do remain in Mexico. But those Mexican drug cartels are going to be treated like the foreign terrorist organizations that they are.
President Pence. All right, Vice President Pence. We're going to move on to a different issue. Hold on, sir. Vice President Pence. Just last month, Vice President Pence, you said if elected, you would repeal all Obamacare mandates. However, you also made that same promise in 2016. And at that time, Trump-Pence had congressional majorities for at least the first 2 years. And you did not deliver on that promise. So Obamacare, right now, it is more
you think for the 3 gifted tier 1 subs and true.
Why should Americans trust you if you become president to fix that? Or is Obamacare here to stay?
Man, I really do love that just offhandedly, Ron DeSantis advocated for invading Mexico with the U.S. military. And, like, there was no follow-up question to that whatsoever.
Well, first let me speak to the mass shootings issue, and then I'll answer that question. It's an important one, Dana. Look, I'm someone that believes that justice delayed is justice denied.
True, chat. We need like 20 more likes on this stream. Go, 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 go.
And as a father of three, as the grandfather of three beautiful little girls, I am sick and tired of these mass shootings happening in the United States of America. And if I'm president of the United States, I'm going to go to the Congress of the United States, and we're going to pass a federal expedited death penalty for anyone involved in a mass shooting so that they...
Yes. You know, people who do mass shootings, famous for wanting to survive the mass shooting. Yeah, the people doing the mass shootings definitely plan on emerging alive afterwards. Definitely not a sizable number of them doing it specifically to suicide by cop. Come on, dude. Like, the idea, like, oh, someone would be, like, on the verge of doing a mass shooting and then would be like, wait a minute, if I'm caught doing this mass shooting, they'll execute me. Well, yeah, your life was already over if you were planning a mass shooting. Like, if you are caught already, you're going to jail forever, or you're already going to get executed. And he's just like, yeah, we'll kill him faster. Like, oh well, okay, that's what most of them already want anyway.
They will meet their fate in months, not years. It is unconscionable.
Yeah, you know, they'll really be planning their massacre of an elementary school and be like, well, you know, I was going to massacre this elementary school, but you know, now they're expediting people, and I won't be able to live for 5 to 10 years after getting convicted. Darn, I guess I shouldn't do a mass shooting. That's not the thought process. They literally don't care what happens to them when they commit to doing the mass shooting.
That the Parkland shooter, Ron, is actually going to spend the rest of his life behind bars in Florida. That's not justice. We have to mete out justice and send a message to these would-be killers that you are not going to live out your days behind bars. You're going to meet justice in this system.
But does that mean Obamacare is here to stay?
What?
Well, thank you for reiterating the question, because I'd love to answer it. Look, I think it's one of the choices here. You know, my former running mate, Donald Trump, actually has a plan to start to consolidate more power in Washington, D.C., consolidate more power in the executive branch. If I'm president of the United States, it's my intention to make the federal government smaller by returning to the states those resources and programs that are rightfully theirs under the 10th Amendment of the Constitution. That means all Obamacare funding, all housing funding, all HHS funding, all of it goes back to the states. We'll shut down the Federal Department of Education. We'll allow states to innovate. We're going to revive federalism in America, and states are going to help bring America back.
Yes. You know, famously, only good things have happened when delegating, states' rights from a federalized program.
Go ahead.
May I remind everyone to keep within their time frame so that we can get as many questions in as possible. This question for Governor DeSantis. Over 26 million Americans don't have insurance coverage. Governor DeSantis, 2.5 million of them are in your state. That's worse than the national average. Can Americans trust you on this?
Well, I think this is a symptom of our overall economic decline. Everything has gotten more expensive. You see insurance rates are going through the roof. people that are going to get groceries. I spoke with a woman in Iowa, and she said, you know, for the first time in my life, I'm having to take things out of my grocery cart when I get to the checkout line because the total goes up so quickly. So this is very real, and people are hurting out there. So we've got to address the underlying problem with Bidenomics, the overspending, taking...
Yes, you see, if we address inflation, that will mean people will be able to afford to go to the doctor and just get cancer treatment when they have $300 in savings in their account. You know, just go get cancer treatment, Fivehead. It won't bankrupt you in our capitalist system. Just go get cancer treatment without insurance. Go do it.
All Biden's rules and regulations, I'm going to throw them in the trash can on day one. You're not going to have to worry about that. We're going to open up all of our energy. We will be energy.
Genuinely, all Republicans should be stripped of their health care. Like, all Republican, like, politicians should be stripped of their health care. See how long it takes for them to backpedal on this wild shit they're on about, like, you know, if we just you know, cut taxes, people will have the money to go to the doctor. Yeah, okay, bud. Let's see how long you fare without any insurance in the healthcare industry.
Dominant in this country that will lower your gas prices. And what we need to do with healthcare is recognize our healthcare is putting patients at the back of the bus. We have big pharma, big insurance, and big government, and we need to tackle that and have more power for the people and the doctor-patient relationship.
Governor, why is your record in Florida on insurance worse than the national average?
Our state's a dynamic state. We've got a lot of folks that come. Of course, we've had a
our state's dynamic, okay? Our state is really dynamic, and that's why our state is doing the worst of any insurance rates in the country. A lot of people just come here, you know? It's very dynamic.
Population boom. We also don't have a lot of...
We just had a population boom, which is why, you know, a lot of people in our state don't have insurance. Again, these aren't answers to the question.
Of welfare benefits in Florida. You know, we're basically saying this is a field of dreams. You can do well in the state, but we're not going to be like California and have massive numbers of people on government programs without work requirements. We believe you work and you got to do that. And so that goes for...
Yeah, look, if you get cancer in Florida, you better be showing up to your Walmart greeter job, or so help us, we will cut off your chemo.
All the welfare benefits. And you know what that's done, Stuart? Our unemployment rate is the lowest amongst any big state. We have the highest GDP growth amongst any big state. And
if you get sick, you just die. And it's, you know, it's all done. Nobody complains about it.
CNBC, no fan of mine, ranked Florida the #1 economy in America.
We're moving on.
Nah, Democrats are in favor of people having health care, carrier exploration. Republicans fundamentally don't want people to have health care.
On the topic of healthcare, Governor Haley, healthcare...
The Republican position is that if you are poor, you should just die. You should just do the country a service and die. If you can't afford healthcare, die. And I think people who think like that shouldn't have healthcare. I think they should learn what exactly it's like in this country if you don't have healthcare.
Is the leading cause of bankruptcy for American families, accounting for 2/3 of all personal bankruptcies. As president, how you protect Americans...
Wait a minute, that's not chemo. That's fentanyl. They snuck it into the chemo treatment drugs. No!
Who get sick from financial ruin.
First of all, how can we be the best country in the world and have the most expensive health care in the world? We have an issue. My mom was in the hospital, and when she was in the hospital, they tried to bring her a couple of Tylenol, and she said, I don't need it. And they said, honey, go ahead and take it because you're paying for it anyway. Why is it that when we got the bill, the insurance company and the hospital negotiated the bill for her without her having anything to do with it? When I am president, we will break all of it, from the insurance...
Oh, great. Just what everyone wants to do when they're sick and injured. Negotiate with insurance companies. Oh boy, I love being sick and injured and weak and possibly delirious and having to negotiate with insurance companies. What an amazing system you've concocted, Nikki Haley. Oh man, I love being high on Percocet after a surgery and negotiating with insurance companies. It's the most fun thing. Five head.
Company to the hospitals, to the doctor's offices, to the PBMs, to the pharmaceutical.
Isn't it that hospitals have to treat you if you're going to die? Yeah, and then you have inescapable medical debt for the rest of your life, ensuring that you live in poverty until the day you die.
Companies, we will make it all.
Also, you have to go to the emergency room. You can't make actual medical appointments, and you go wherever they tell you. And yes, they will kick you out onto the street if you can't pay. That happens quite often, actually.
All transparent, because when you do that, you will realize that's what the problem is. Second thing is you've got to deal with tort law. The doctors don't give you the 10 tests because they want to. It's because of the 90% chance they'll get sued. And then we need to bring competition back to healthcare, get rid of certificate of need systems, and make sure that they can compete. We have to put the patient in the driver's seat. They've been
And also it varies based on the medical system you're in. If you are in a privatized healthcare system, the private hospitals can basically do what they want. For example, hey, look at this. The Allina healthcare system in Minnesota. The hospital system cuts off patients only if they have racked up at least $1,500 in unpaid debt 3 separate times. It contacts them by phone and with repeated letters that include information about applying for financial help. And then they kick people out of their hospitals. Like, again, the idea that, like, oh, well, they have to treat you. No, they don't. They don't, actually, if they are for-profit hospitals, which most hospitals in America are.
In the backseat for way too long, and once we give the patient the ability to
oh yeah, sorry, the screen's reversed.
To decide their health care, deciding which plan they want, that is when we will see magic happen. But we're going to have to make every part of the industry open up and show us where their warts are, because they all have them, and we need to fix this on behalf of the American people.
And that's what we did. Do you have a better way in 30 seconds?
Well, yes, we're not talking about the real problem ever. We talk about why do we have the most expensive health care in the world? It's because the federal government.
Also, the hospitals make the determination of whether or not you're going to die, right? If you have cancer, they aren't going to treat you indefinitely. They give you whatever will treat you short term, and then they kick you out. If you are not currently on the verge of death, they kick you out. That's how these hospitals function.
Government got involved the same way they did with EVs, and they said, we're going to subsidize a particular kind of software back in 2008 under Obama, and they said, hey, we're going to do this. It's going to make everyone more productive. All of you that are watching have been to a doctor's office when the doctor's got his back to you and their hands on a keyboard. The only industry in the world that's ever absorbed $1 trillion of IT and became less productive, they saw less patients per day, is U.S. healthcare, because they were subsidizing a certain kind of technology.
That's not why... That's not why the hospital system became less productive. They became less productive because of our insurance system. Doctors have to spend like 70 or 80% of their day filing paperwork for insurance companies. That's why it became less productive. It's because our insurance system prevents doctors from treating more patients. That's why.
It wasn't about improving health care. It was about picking winners and losers. Every time the federal government's involved, whether it's higher education, health care, or now the auto.
If you had one singular healthcare system, you would be able to fast track a lot of this stuff. There wouldn't be as much bureaucracy. You wouldn't have to spend all this time with doctors doing insurance shenanigans. They could just be treating patients.
Industry, things get more expensive and less competitive.
That was a great transition, because we are going to move.
When you have a federal healthcare system, when you have a single-payer healthcare system, you can just provide that service at cost. You don't have to extract profits from it. You don't have 12 different companies extracting billions upon billions of dollars of profit at taxpayers' expense. You don't have to spend money on advertising. You can just have one system instead of 12 systems and then run it at cost, which means it's cheaper than any of those other systems. Goodness.
Move on the future of education in America. What's the government's role in finding a way forward? The second.
As a person who does billing work for a private practice psychiatrist as my side hustle, Jack is spitting a straight truth. Yeah, 100% very knifey duck.
Republican debate rolls on from Simi Valley.
And informed patriotism is what we want. And are we doing a good enough job teaching our children what America is and what she represents in the long history of the world?
I can't get over how yesterday we watched a clip of Ronald Reagan arguing against Elie Wiesel about how actually it's really good that he was deciding to visit and honor a graveyard with SS officers in it. And to a Holocaust victim. I can't believe that that was a real clip. That was crazy.
Do you trust our government and where the economy is heading?
What? Reagan did what? He visited a World War II cemetery that had where SS soldiers had been buried. Nazi SS soldiers, and laid a wreath there. And Elie Wiesel got up in front of him, during one of the because there was a big controversy around it at the time. Got up in front of the president at the White House and basically implored him not to do this. And Reagan was just like, "Sorry, bud, I disagree with you. I'm gonna do it anyway." Is it a short clip? It's like 10 minutes long, but we'll how about this? We'll watch like a short we'll watch just a small part of it, the Elie Wiesel part. Who again is the author of Man's Search for Meaning, which is a book about his survival in a Holocaust concentration camp. So, Reagan. Yeah, here we go.
The Chancellor Kohl and I agreed together to lay a wreath at the cemetery for the German war dead. That's why I accepted the invitation to Bitburg, and that's why I'm going. There are 2,000 graves there, and most of those, the average age is about 18. These were those young teenagers that were conscripted, forced into military service in the closing days of the Third Reich. I think that there's nothing wrong with visiting that cemetery where those young men are victims of Nazism also.
May I, Mr. President, if it's possible at all, implore you to do something else, to find a way, to find another way, another site. That place, Mr. President, is not your place. Your place is...
This guy survived in a concentration camp during the Holocaust as a Jewish man.
With the victims of the SS. The issue here is not politics, but good and evil.
Oh, look, Soci Inertia, I don't disagree with the point about that when it comes to grunt soldiers in the Nazi war machine, but we're talking about a cemetery with I think 64 SS officers buried in it. Like, I'm sorry, you don't have to do that. When the director of the U.S. Holocaust Council and the author of Man's Search for Meaning stands up and is like, please do literally anything else with your time.
And we must never confuse them, for I have seen the SS at work, and I have seen their victims. They were my friends, they were my parents.
Also, keep in mind, the SS ran the concentration camps that mass murdered Jews in the Holocaust.
The final word has been spoken as far as I'm concerned. I think it is morally right to do what I'm doing, and I'm not going to change my mind about that.
Yeah, he's just like, nah, I'm gonna do it anyway. Absolute monster.
No favorite.
Okay, can't wait. Honestly, YouTube, this is too much to read.
When Republicans vote early, we win.
You could bank your vote by casting your ballot before
quickly settling your tax debt.
Oh, Kevin Sorbo. You're doing Tax Network USA? Oh, dude. Dude.
But you have to act now while you still have options. Call TaxNetwork.com.
Patriot power.
Universal school choice, and even the current expansion won't be fully implemented until 2027. Parents can't wait 4 years for a fix. So what would you do?
Isn't the age requirement to be an SS 23 or something? Zelrex, the requirements for joining the SS had to be, I believe it was volunteer-based, and you had to be able to prove your ancestry back to 1800s, and you had to be a pure Aryan in that time period, and you had to be 18 to 23. So there were some people who were 18. I think later on in the war, the age got lowered to like 16 to 23. There were different age requirements as that got more lax as the war went on, obviously.
Right now.
Well, and school choice isn't the only answer, but I'll tell you it's not out of a lack of trying that we didn't try and get school choice in South Carolina. What I'll tell you, first of all, is we have to acknowledge the fact that 67% of our 8th graders are not proficient in reading or math. Over 80% of our 8th graders aren't proficient in history or civics. And recently they came out and said our 12 and 13-year-olds are scoring at the lowest levels they've been scoring in reading and math in decades. So the first thing we've got to do is we've got to make sure we catch our kids back up. We have to make sure they can read. A child that can't read by 3rd grade is 4 times less likely to graduate high school. We need to do reading remediation. We need complete transparency in the classroom. No parent should ever wonder what's being said or taught to their child in the classroom. We need to make sure that we have school choice so that there's...
By the way, the argument that school choice will do a better job at teaching our children how to read, just as an FYI, the reason charter schools have a slight advantage over public schools is because they just kick out kids that are underperforming in order to boost their scores. When it comes to standardized testing, they will just kick out kids who are not doing as well so that their schools have better rates of literacy. They can be like, oh, well, see, look, so many people are graduating this, in 2nd grade, and they're just all able to read. Well, and that's because they kicked out any of the kids who couldn't read right before the test, And that's just one of many, many, many problems. That doesn't even get into, charter schools regarding, students with disabilities. It doesn't get into the fact that charter schools siphon off students from public schools that get their funding based on how many kids are in the school. And if you remove a bunch of kids from a school, that doesn't reduce the operating costs of an existing school. So they wind up having smaller and smaller budgets, especially if it's a large inner city school, It's a terrible situation, and charter schools only exacerbate that and only gatekeep education for wealthier people. And if you think that your kid is going to be going to school with the children of wealthy people, well, think again, because they're just going to use their payouts from the government to send their kids to even better, wealthier schools. And if your kid happens to be a bit slow, it's going to suck because they're going to get kicked out of that charter school and sent to a public school instead.
Competition. We need to move all the programs from the federal government down to the states and let's...
Oh, also, it is just a sideways way of basically using state funding for religious school systems. Religious institutions can make charter schools, which means that this is just a way of funneling money into, Catholic schools, Protestant schools, Muslim schools, Jewish schools. Again, the state has no business funding these religious institutions. It's one of the primary things America's based on, not setting up any one religion over another. But, Republicans don't care because most of them are Christian nationalists, and they think that that's good and based, actually, to use government funds for religious institutions.
States decide what education looks like in their states. Right. And we need to start building things in America again. Let's put vocational classes back in our high schools.
Are there K through 12 Islamic schools here? I mean, I would assume probably at least a handful. There are millions of Muslim people in America.
And let's get our kids building the things that we know that we can make. When we start to focus on that and really bring in that parental involvement, that's when we'll start to see a difference. But we've got to get parents back.
Yeah. List of accredited... Let's see. List of accredited Islamic schools in the United States. Yeah, there's a whole bunch. Several in Alabama, several in Arizona, some in Arkansas, a bunch in California, one in Colorado, several in Florida, a few in Georgia. Yeah.
Included, we've got to quit spending time on this DEI and CRT and instead focus on financial literacy, on digital literacy, and on making sure that our kids know what they need to do to have.
Oh, Nikki Haley, you fool! If you focused on that, those would be like actual metrics that might possibly benefit kids. And we all know that Republicans are not about benefiting their constituents. That would mean they would have to do something that might cost that might take away time from passing tax breaks for the wealthy.
Have the jobs of the next generation.
On the subject of education, a question for Governor Christie. Students in your state are getting high marks on their report cards, but minorities are not doing well with math and reading. Black and Hispanic students averaging 29 points lower than white students in New Jersey. Would you address minorities first?
You have to address all students. And look, in our state, Stuart, frankly, before I was governor, that gap was close to 50%.
Yeah, there are 6 accredited Islamic schools in Michigan.
And what we did was institute more charter schools and more Renaissance schools and more public school choice in New Jersey with innovative solutions in cities like Camden, where now we took what was the worst school district in America during my time, and we have now increased that by nearly 40% in terms of their proficiency. It can be done when you give people choice. But let's tell the truth to everybody about what this is. This public school system is no longer run by the public. It is run by the teachers' unions in this country. Randy Weingarten and her crew are absolutely strangling. They are taking the worst of their members and defending them rather than advocating for our kids. And when you have the President of the United States sleeping with a member of the teachers union, there is no chance that you could take the stranglehold away from the teachers union every day. They have an advocate inside the White House every day for the worst of their teachers, not for our students to be the best they can be. A President of the United States has to take on the teachers union. I did it in New Jersey, and I will do it as President of the United States.
Yeah, those greedy teachers who checks notes are quitting their jobs and making more money working as associates at Costco. Those greedy teachers who earn more at like retail jobs than they do at their teaching job that they got a master's degree for. You greedy, scummy teachers, how dare you care about children and try to teach them things? Not on Chris Christie's watch.
Governor DeSantis, I have a question for you. Governor DeSantis, I have a question for you.
Are you guys having trouble seeing?
Florida's new Black History curriculum.
Was Tim Scott, can anyone see me? Am I invisible right now?
Says, quote, slaves develop skills which in some instances
could
be applied for their personal benefit. You have said slaves.
Oh, they're getting him with the slavery question. They actually brought some decent questions to this debate.
Develop skills in spite of slavery, not because of it. But many are still hurt. For descendants of slaves, this is personal. What is your message to them?
So first of all, that's a hoax that was perpetrated by Kamala Harris. We are not going to be doing that. Second of all, that was written by descendants of slaves. These are great black history scholars, so we need to stop playing these games. Here's the deal.
Look, if black people said it, it couldn't possibly be incorrect. Look, we had a black guy write it. That means it represents the words of all black people. How could it possibly be racist? Are you kidding me right now? We paid a black guy to say it. It can't be racist.
Our country's education system is in decline because it's focused on indoctrination, denying parents' rights. Florida represents the revival of American education. We're ranked #1 in the nation in education by U.S. News and World Report.
Mm-hmm. Let's just Florida education. Yeah, okay. Oh, I can't show it because it's all flipped. The quality, let's see. In evaluating the best states for education, one of 8 categories deriving the overall best states rankings, U.S. News examined metrics tied to both higher education and the space from pre-kindergarten through high school. Learn more about the best states for education below and see the best states methodology for a detailed look at the data behind best state rankings. I want to know how they ranked anything on this list. The #2 state for pre-K through 12 education is New Jersey, which doesn't seem correct. And the yeah. Let's just take a look at this. Rankings details. Education. This all just seems like a hodgepodge. I'm not gonna lie. They have no data on, like, how any of this is calculated. Yeah, where are they getting their data? Oh, okay, this is a rabbit hole for a different time.
Wife and I, we have a 6, 5, and 3-year-old. This is personal to us. We didn't just talk about universal school choice. We enacted universal school choice. We didn't just talk about Parents' Bill of Rights. We enacted the Parents' Bill of Rights. We eliminated critical race theory, and we now have American civics and the Constitution in our schools in a really big way, just like President Reagan asked for in his farewell address back in 1989. Florida is showing how it's done. We're standing with parents, and our kids are benefiting.
Senator Scott, you oppose to these new standards. What is your message for Governor DeSantis?
There is not a redeeming quality in slavery. He and Kamala should have just taken.
Okay, there's absolutely no way. I'm sorry. There is no way that Florida ranks well in education when literally the literacy rate for adults in Florida is, like, in some estimates around 75%. Somewhere between 75% and 80%. I'm sorry. No, your education system is terrible if only 80% of your adults are literate. Like, just baseline literate.
The one sentence out. America has suffered because of slavery, but we've overcome that. We are the greatest nation on earth because we faced our demons in the mirror and made a decision. So often we think that
like, it's so bad, there's an organization in Florida called the Florida Literacy Coalition. Like, come on.
Issues. You talked about crime and education and healthcare. We always think that those issues go back to slavery.
Yeah, 22% of adults aged 16 or older are at or below level 1 of literacy, and 32% are at or below level 1 of numeracy, meaning that, like, a colossal number of people in Florida don't know basic math or how to read.
Slavery. Here's the challenge, though. Black families survived slavery. We survived poll taxes and literacy tests. We survived discrimination being woven into the laws of our country. What was hard to survive was Johnson's Great Society, where they decided to put money, where they decided to take the black father out of the house.
Oh God, you can see where he almost fucked up. You can see it. Where Johnson's Great Society, where he put money into the hands of black families, and like he realized what he was about to say, and he had to stop and rephrase it to "they took the black father out of the home," which is not what Johnson's Great Society did. It provided financial stability for black families. And he's trying to argue right now that disenfranchising black people, ensuring black people did not have a say in their democracy, was less bad than giving black families money. This is incredible. Incredible stuff.
To get a check in the mail, and you can now measure that in unemployment, in crime, in devastation. If you want to restore hope, you've got to restore the family.
If you want to restore hope, you got to take money away from black families, according to Tim Scott. Oh my God, dude.
Restore capitalism and put Americans back at work together as one American family.
Again, listen to what he just said. In order to fix American society, you need to take money away from working black families to ensure that they work even harder in order to try and squeak by. This is just unambiguously evil. There's nothing else you can say about this. Sorry, black working moms. Your kid isn't going to be able to go to the hospital. You can't afford it. Sorry. Oh, did you think you were going to be able to pay rent on an apartment? Nah, you're homeless now. Sorry. You and your kids, you're on the streets. Should have worked harder. That's Tim Scott. That's what he's saying right now to you. That you have been done more wrong by having money in your pocket for food and housing than if people prevented you from voting. If people kept you, redlined, if people were allowed to discriminate against you and keep you out of businesses for being black, those were lesser wrongs than apparently giving the black family money.
Family. Our nation continues to go in the right direction. It's why I can say I have been discriminated against, but America is not a racist country. Never, ever doubt who we are. We are the greatest country on God's green earth. And frankly, the city on the hill needs a brand new leader. And I'm asking for your vote.
I'm going to have a question for you, Mr. Ramaswamy. Over 10.7 million students in over 18,000 public schools nationwide have the ability to change their identity without parental notification. Governor Christie told Stewart...
I'm sure Vivek rhymes with cake is going to have a great take on this.
Last week that he would pass a federal law to protect parental rights. Would you try to do the same?
I have to be very clear about this. Transgenderism, especially in kids, is a mental health disorder. We have to...
Especially in kids, meaning that some trans people don't have mental health disorders and are fine, I guess, but even more so in kids.
Acknowledge the truth of that for what it is. I met two young women early in this campaign.
On parental rights in schools.
Parents have the right to know. And you know what?
Parents have the right to beat their kids if their kid is using the wrong pronouns. Like, this is insane. Like, keep in mind what is being asked when they bring up topics like parents have a right to know. Parents have a right to know if their children are gay. Keep in mind, there's a reason why the vast majority of homeless youth, I think upwards of like 60 to 65% of homeless youth in America are gay, despite making up like 13% of like the population or so in total. And it's because families disown them for being gay and kick them out onto the street for being gay. And that includes trans people. Trans people are even more likely to be kicked out onto the street and disowned by their families for being gay or trans. So when these policies of non-disclosure happen in schools, it's literally to protect kids from being attacked, from being violated, from being destitute at the hands of their own families. It is a disgusting but real reality that by revealing and outing your kid, by revealing and outing kids to their parents, there is a very real possibility that those kids could be put in harm's way. That's why those policies exist. And these people are like, well, don't you want to know if your kid is gay? Well, the thing is, your kid didn't want to tell you that they were gay. Your kid didn't want to tell you that they were trans because they've heard how you talk about gay people. They've heard how you talk about trans people, and they know already that their parents aren't safe to come out to. Otherwise, they would have done it first. Kids who feel safe coming out to their parents do so first before they come out at school. If they don't feel safe, then they don't come out to their parents, and instead they experiment at school amongst their friends where they feel safe. And what these people are asking them to do, what these presidential candidates are asking to be done, is that these kids should be outed to their parents and put in harm's way. And they are asking for essentially teachers and any staff at any school to operate as spies on behalf of parents in order to out their kids if there's any sign of them being gay or trans. And that is disgusting. They're asking for teachers to basically be a miniature version of the Gestapo. And that is horrendous.
Hypocrisy of this is, even New Hampshire failed to actually get past a piece of legislation here. The very people who say that this increases the risk of suicide are also the ones saying that parents don't have the right to know about that increased risk of suicide. And I'm sorry, it is not compassionate to affirm a kid's confusion. That is not...
Yeah, no, exactly, Polydactyl Black Cat. Exactly. Also, hello, Steve L. Thank you for commenting. Also, hello, Todd Pemper. How you doing? But no, exactly. Republicans are just obsessed with, like, the sex of children. They're obsessed with the genitals of children. This is why Republicans are the ones pushing for genital inspections for children. If there's any doubt, if they see a kid, if they see, like, a girl, and they think that that girl looks a little bit too muscular, they want to have the ability to have that girl's genitals inspected to see if they really have a penis down there, because they just have to know. They have to. This is why you have stories now popping up of Republicans going to, like, their niece's track meets and having them in the stands pointing at random little girls and shouting about how they're actually transgenders and, like, shouting for them to have their genitals inspected. They're insane. The policies that Republicans are pushing onto the electorate are insane. And you know that they're insane because anytime anyone who believes in them pops up, they look like absolute lunatics.
Not compassion, that is cruelty. I met two young women, Chloe and Katie, early in this campaign, who are in their 20s, now regret getting double mastectomies.
Also, it's very interesting that they keep bringing up the same detransitioners. If detransitioning was such a prevalent thing, and there was such a huge problem amongst the huge surge of people transitioning, of trans kids. Wouldn't they be able to find a couple more detransitioners than the 2 or 3 they trot out for Republican media appearances? That's pretty strange. If it was such a huge problem, they'd be able to find more than like 3 detransitioners willing to talk to them. That's crazy. That's crazy, dog. It's almost like you're cherry-picking people in order to back up your point.
And a hysterectomy. One of them will never have children. And the fact that we allowed that to happen in this country is barbaric. So I will ban genital mutilation.
Again, I need to point out, we have the data on this. The regret rate for trans surgical interventions is the lowest of basically any other surgical intervention. People regret heart transplants more than they regret transitional surgeries. People regret surgeries that give them organs that save their lives more than they regret transitioning surgeries. The regret rate is something like 0.1%. It's ridiculous. The regret rate, by the way, for like open heart surgery is something like 60%. The comparison, if you know anything about the satisfaction rates with like surgical interventions, are off the charts. Off the charts. There is no reason to fixate on this being an issue aside from whipping up a culture war, whipping up hysteria, and making trans people the boogeymen that they can hate and that they can, shit on in public. That they can, get their daily hates in. All of these people, of course, are obsessed with 1984. You gotta have your daily hate on these people in order to cohesively, bind your base. Yeah, boogeymen, boogie women, boogie NBs. We all love the boogie.
Or chemical castration under the age of 18, and parents have absolutely...
Yeah, interestingly, all of these people talking about genital mutilation don't talk about circumcision. Curious.
Trying to pass a federal law that says parents should have that right.
We are going to require states absolutely have to follow that through.
Governor Burgum just to follow up on this because you in your state you do not have a law that says parents can't be notified, but you want to be president. Would you try to pass a federal law to say parents have that right?
I think this is a state's issue, but I do want to say something, because all night long we've been talking about issues about how it's broken in Washington, and I respect all of the people on the stage here for their 100+ years of public service. Thank you. But the reason why we're not talking about education or health care or safety being a problem in North Dakota is because we have a business leader. I've got more experience as a business leader than I think this whole group. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I messed up. Sorry, not 60%, 6.0%. After open heart transplants, 6%. I saw 6.0. I missed the decimal point. But still, that is exponentially more than the regret rate for any trans affirming surgery. Also, if you really want to get technical, 15% of anyone who has had open heart transplant surgery express regret for having had that surgery. So again, it's like 150 times more regret experienced by people with open heart transplant surgery. My bad, Steve. I'm sorry. Combined, I know I've created more jobs than everybody else on stage, thousands of high-paying jobs that have real meaning. So as a business leader, you come in and you treat the taxpayer like a customer. So in North Dakota, instead of fighting with the teachers' unions, we actually created a K-12 coordinating council. Everybody gets in the room and the customer is the student.
But you do understand that this is an issue that many people in America really are concerned about.
Sky will not be at the next debate.
About
True.
Parents and notification in schools.
Yes, and that's why we have 50 platforms of innovation. That's why we have states. There are certain things that federal government is supposed to do. It's not the Department of Education. That needs to be assembled. We got to move it back to states. Do what we did in North Dakota. Instead of like, oh, here's a choice school and here's an old school, the old way with the teachers union, the kids are trapped. We made every school in North Dakota an innovation school. Every school got out from under the red tape, and the things that help teach the values that we're trying to get, like 4-H, like FFA, like Boy Scouts, they can get credit for all of that stuff in North Dakota. And by the way, North Dakota is now at the top of the median SAT scores in the country right now.
Vice President Pence, the Department of Homeland Security warns that violence against LGBTQ plus people is on the rise and intensifying. According to a recent study, members of...
I feel like that lady didn't get the memo that you're supposed to lob softball questions to these people. God bless Spanish-speaking television, okay?
That community are 9 times more likely to be victims of violent hate crimes. As president, how would you protect this community from violent attacks?
Asking this guy about how he would protect LGBTQ citizens. Mike Pence is reviled in Indiana specifically for opposing LGBTQ rights. This is actually very, very funny to ask him this question.
And discrimination.
Well, as President of the United States, I'll stand up for the safety and the civil liberties of every American, from every background. And I want the American people to know that. But I want to answer the question as well, Dana, that you just asked Doug Burgum.
Interesting that he did not want to talk about any of the LGBTQ issues there. He just wanted to say a general platitude and move on. Curious.
Because by way of full disclosure, Chris, you mentioned the president's situation. My wife isn't a member of the teachers union, but I got to admit I've been sleeping with a teacher for 38 years, and
hot.
We all
wanted. I know we all wanted to imagine Mike Pence having sex. Great. I love it.
Look, education is a state and local function. The state of Indiana had one of the very first school choice programs in the country. And when I was governor of the state of Indiana, we doubled it. And as to your question, Dana, let's be very, very clear. When the Linn-Mar Community Schools in Iowa had a policy where you had to have a permission slip from your parents to get a Tylenol, but you could get a gender transition plan without notifying your parents, I weighed in with a foundation. That's not bad policy. That's crazy. We're going to stand up for the rights of parents, and we're going to pass a federal ban on transgender chemical or surgical surgery anywhere in the country. We've got.
Oh, good. I'm so glad he's sticking up for the safety of LGBTQ people by banning medical care for LGBTQ people.
Got to protect our kids from this radical gender ideology agenda, and we've got to empower parents at the state level with the ability to choose where their kids go to.
Oddly enough, we just had to let him cook. He came right back around and said he would make queer people less safe.
School, whether it's public, private, parochial, or homeschool, you empower parents, and our schools will straighten up and reflect our values and focus on the basics faster than you could possibly imagine.
Next subject.
Can I just say one thing?
China is investing. If you talk over everybody, we lose time. China is investing heavily in their tech companies. $280 billion every year on semiconductor research and development. That is 1 CHIPS Act per year. Governor DeSantis, you say companies like Google and Meta have too much power. Doesn't going after them give China an edge?
No, I think you look at how our societies develop. They have huge amount of power over our society. They've cracked down on free speech. We're not saying you don't want them to do business, but you want it to be a free market. And right now they're monopolies. But this issue of China, I think, is really going to be fundamental. We have subcontracted out so much of our national needs to the CCP. We rely on them for a whole host of issues. We need to reshore and we need to decouple all those important.
Oddly enough, Ron DeSantis, in his state where he has laws against, transgender people using the bathrooms they identify with, oddly enough, he's running an ICUP party.
industries. We need to get that back in the United States. They are our top geopolitical adversary by a country mile. Xi Jinping's got huge ambitions, not only in the Asia Pacific, but as you mentioned earlier, in our region. But ultimately, we've got to beat him on the economy. And so that's what we'll do as President of the United States.
Governor Christie, I wanted to follow up on this because 22%.
I thought that was a clever joke. Okay, I thought it was clever. I back it 10,000%.
Of American workers fear their jobs will be lost to a robot. And you said in the past that the free market is
I stand by
the way
it.
to go. Would you retrain workers who lose a job to artificial intelligence, and to do what?
Well, look, what I think artificial intelligence offers us is an extraordinary opportunity to expand well beyond the productivity that we have now, and to have Americans be able to be involved in that revolution, Dana. You know, each time we have shown incredible innovation and progress in this country. What we've done with it is to expand all kinds of new, even unthought of opportunities for folks. Yes, we have to do retraining.
Just learn how to, use AI keywords, Fivehead.
For folks who lose some of their jobs, and we should be doing that. And we should have more training available both at the county college level and the local level for people to be able to access it. So yes, I would be in favor of that. But this is a much bigger issue than that. We can't be afraid of innovation. America has been the great innovator of this world over the last 250 years, a technological innovator, a manufacturing innovator, and a freedom and governmental innovator. And that's why America has...
I mean, to be honest, dumping into robots is great. We should dump into robots. We should dump into AI with certain restrictions. But the issue is, under capitalism, none of those proceeds are going to be distributed to, the working class. They're all going to be hoarded at the top of society. And the people at the top are going to look down and just be like, let them eat cake. Perish. And really the question is, what happens when we come to a crisis point there? Will the forces of the state be used to clamp down on us? And right now, these people are like, yeah, we'll use the military to kill you. You will take your bowl of broth and you'll like it.
Continue to stand strong in the world.
Oh, let them eat Vivek. That's clever.
Pro-progress. Yeah. And I will tell you this. As President of the United States, what I will do is to make sure that every innovator in this country gets the government the hell off its back and out of its pocket so that it can innovate and bring great new inventions to our country that will make everybody's lives better.
Mr. Ramaswamy, TikTok is banned on government-issued devices because of its ties to the Chinese government. Yet you joined TikTok after dinner with boxer and influencer Jake Paul. Should the commander-in-chief be so easily persuaded by an influencer?
So the answer is, I have a radical idea for the Republican Party. We need to win elections.
Imagine Jake Paul convincing you of literally anything. That's embarrassing.
And part of how we win elections is reaching the next generation of young Americans where they are. So when I get into office, I've been very clear. Kids under the age of 16 should not be using addictive social media. We're only going to ever get to declaring independence from China, which I favor, if we actually win. So while the Democrats are running rampant, reaching the next generation 3-1, there's exactly one person in the Republican Party which talks a big game about reaching young people.
Just as an aside, here's the video of him with Jake Paul. Oh, why? Okay. That was the worst thing I've ever done in my life. Holy moly. Okay. Yeah, just this is. What compelling politics?
I have to earn your trust. What do you see? You see a young man who's in a bit of a hurry, maybe a little ambitious, bit of a know-it-all, it seems at times. I'm here to tell you, no, I don't know it all. I will listen. I will have the best people, the best and brightest in this country, whatever age they are, advising me. We will be probably many of the people on this stage included. That's how I built my companies. I want to be challenged. I want people who disagree with me. That's what makes America great, because we're not a perfect nation. We're founded on the pursuit of perfection. That is what makes America great. And that is why we will end it once we win this election.
I have to jump. I have to jump in here. I'm sorry.
Hey, Kupashel.
There's one person on this.
This is infuriating because TikTok is one of the most dangerous
Oh my God, I forgot she was in this debate.
social media apps that we could have. And what you've got, I honestly, every time I hear you, I feel a little bit dumber for what you say. Because I can't believe here you've got a TikTok situation. What they're doing is these 150 million people are on TikTok. That means they can get your contacts, they can get your financial information, they can get your emails, they can get text messages.
To be fair, that's if you were on the internet at all, they can get all of these things.
They can get all of these things.
This is
China
very important
knows
for our party.
exactly what they're
This
doing.
is very important
and
for our party, and I'm going to say
you've gone and you've helped China make medicines in China, not America. You're now wanting kids to go and get on the social media that's dangerous for all of us. You went and you were in business with the Chinese that gave Hunter Biden $5 million. We can't trust you. We can't trust you. We can't have TikTok in our kids' lives.
This is very important.
Mr. Ramaswamy, you have 15 seconds.
I think, excuse me.
You have 15 seconds, Mr. Ramaswamy.
Thank you. I think we would be better served as a Republican Party if we're not sitting here hurling personal insults and actually have a legitimate debate about policy following Reagan's 11th Commandment in his honor. And the answer is that is what actually makes our country strong. And I believe in these people. These are good people on the stage. They disagree, but let's have a legitimate disagreement. That's what I would say.
Stuart, can we get back to the question? The question is on technology.
Governor DeSantis,
There's
I'm
one
going
person
straight.
on this stage
Sir,
that has a career in
we will have to
technology.
cut your mic, and I don't want to do that. I don't. So, Governor DeSantis, let me go to you. Experts say President Putin has ordered assassinations across Europe, cheated on arms control treaties with the U.S., and seeks to work with China to force our decline. President Reagan believed that if you want to prevent a war, you better be prepared to fight one. Today, the Republican Party is at odds over aid to Ukraine. The price tag so far is $76 billion. But is it in our best interest to degrade Russia's military for less than 5% of what we pay annually on defense, especially when there are no U.S. soldiers in the fight?
It's in our interest to end this war, and that's what I will do as president. We are not going to have a blank check. We will not have U.S. troops.
How are you going to end a war between two countries that aren't neither of which are the United States?
And we're going to make the Europeans do what they need to do. But they've sent money to pay bureaucrats' pensions and salaries and funding small businesses halfway around the world. Meanwhile, our own country is being invaded.
I don't think they understand. Again, we're not sending money. We're sending military equipment that has a dollar value. But that military equipment is outdated trash compared to what we make now. You know, like, they aren't sending a blank check. They're sending old military equipment. And that old military equipment makes space for shiny new military equipment. So the military-industrial complex can happily churn out more arms and vehicles. And you know what? Most of those are made in the United States by American workers. And that's kind of one of the dirty secrets like a lot of politicians don't really want to grapple with. It's that these arms manufacturers are being manufactured, you know, in the United States. There are entire towns that rely on the operation of these factories. Are they all still calling for a war with Mexico? Dr. Obutnik, two of them are, at least. So, like, again, like, part of what you have to understand, part of what he is saying while trying to posture here is that he wants to reduce the profits for the military-industrial complex and kill small company towns, which, by the way, he has no intention of ever doing, because these people get a hard-on for these types of businesses, okay?
We don't even have control of our own territory. We have got to defend the American people before we even worry about all these other things. And I watch these guys in Washington, D.C., and they don't care about the American people. They don't care about the fentanyl deaths. They don't care about the communities being overrun because of this border. They don't care about the Mexican drug cartels. So as Commander-in-Chief, I will defend this country's sovereignty.
By invading Mexico. And that will really help us all by starting a war in Mexico. Yeah. That will help keep communities safe somehow. And, yeah, just ignore the fact that fentanyl is sourced in by U.S. cops. An entire police department was recently found to be complicit in fentanyl smuggling. Ignore the fact that the vast majority of drug smuggling occurs via boat or via plane, and is done by American citizens, not by undocumented migrants. Ignore the fact that basically all of the problems he just listed and his solutions don't line up at all.
But it's not a territorial dispute. It's never been a territorial dispute.
And 90% of the resources that we send over to Ukraine is guaranteed. It's a loan. It is not 90% of the money that we send over there is loan. Well, we can talk about this, but
which I believe this is true, actually. Meaning that if Ukraine wins, they'll be able to pay back that money. Or pay back the value of that military equipment. So it is a win-win. We get to off old, outdated military equipment, and then they will pay us for it later.
At the end of the day, 90% of the money that we send over there is actually in the form of a loan. It's not actually not be paid by Ukraine. It's paid by the NATO, our NATO allies.
So I think it's a good topic.
I think.
Okay, well, it's not paid by our NATO allies. That's just incorrect.
It's a really good topic too. But I will say, let's debate the fact that our national vital interest is in degrading the Russian military.
I think for the very first time, Tim Scott has said something correct in this debate.
By degrading the Russian military, we actually keep our homeland safer, we keep our troops at home, and we all understand Article 5 of NATO.
We have to level with the American people.
I thought you said something about waiting until your turn to talk. So hold on. So at the end of the day, I'm going to finish my. I'll be happy to debate
ahead,
this.
I'll respond.
I'll look forward to this one right now. So at the end of the day, when you think about the fact that if you want to keep American troops at home, attack on NATO territory would bring us and our troops in. By degrading the Russian military, we reduce, if not eliminate, an attack on NATO territory.
Finish that exchange. We have to level with the American people. We have to level with the American people on this issue. The reality is just because Putin's an evil dictator does not mean that Ukraine is good. This is a country that has banned 11 opposition.
Actually, I would argue that Putin being an evil dictator, using Ukraine to weaken his position in the world and reduce his ability to unilaterally invade neighboring countries is a good thing, regardless of what moral character you ascribe to Ukraine.
Parties.
A win for Russia is a win for China.
We're driving Russia.
A win for Russia is a win for China.
Excuse me, if you have a chance.
I forgot you like China. That's why
you'll have your chance in just a moment. Yeah. The hurling personal insults isn't helping. China is the real enemy, and we're driving Russia further into China's arms. We need a reasonable peace plan to end this, especially this is a country whose president just last week was hailing a Nazi in his own ranks.
Ukraine, that's a green light to China to take Taiwan.
We need a
peace comes through strength.
We need a reasonable plan to peace.
Governor Christie.
The Communist Party of China is the real enemy.
Governor Christie. Governor Christie. President Biden's first 2 years have brought China, Russia, and Iran closer together. Are we focused too much on Ukraine and not enough on this threat from the New World Order?
No, they're all connected, Stuart. They're all connected.
What the hell are you talking about, dude? What about the threat for the New World Order? No elaboration.
The Chinese are paying for the Russian war in Ukraine. The Iranians are supplying more.
By the way, this is incorrect. The Chinese are not paying for the Russian war in Ukraine. Russia, up to this point, has largely been paying for the war itself by going into and running massive deficits. Okay, they're basically just plunging their country into a financial pit, with the idea being that they will recoup those losses after they conquer Ukraine. Okay? Yeah, China doesn't want Russia to be upending the boat right now. They don't want that. They want the economic stability. Because basically, China's entire deal has been leveraging the economic stability of the world towards using its services and buying its goods. And if the world is less stable, if the energy producers are less stable, if countries are embroiled in a massive regional conflict, that makes it harder for Russia or for China to leverage those things. And China's not happy about this. China actually stopped exporting arms to Russia, I believe, which is why Russia had to turn to North Korea to buy Cold War era munitions back from North Korea. They would not be buying them from North Korea if they could buy them from China. Let me put it that way.
Sophisticated weapons, and so are the North Koreans now as well, with the encouragement of the Chinese. The naivete on this stage.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Russia has ore they can mine and sell, yes? Yes, to an extent. However, the issue is that their economy is largely built on natural gas supplies, and their ability to export natural gas has been absolutely crippled by being at war with essentially the entire EU. Or not at war with the entire EU, but the entire EU has cut them off from natural gas supplies, or sending them natural gas. So instead they're having to sell to China, but the issue is that that doesn't actually make up for the loss of supplying 60% of the EU's natural gas supply. So their solution right now is running their country at into massive deficits. And that's going to come back to bite them, maybe not in a year, but in a couple years, 3 years. If this conflict gets drawn out for a significant period of time, they're boned. And they know that. But for now, they've been able to insulate the Russian population from experiencing the worst of the economic shocks. But that's not going to be an ability they have forever. And it's also not going to be solved by them leveraging their natural resources, because currently their largest export market has been Europe, and Europe isn't going to buy those things. Instead, Europe is sourcing their supplies from other countries around the world, and that is only going to cripple Russia in the long run.
From some of these folks, it's extraordinary. Look, I understand people want to go and talk to Putin. Guess what? So did George W. Bush. So did Barack Obama. So did Donald Trump. And so did Joe Biden when he said a small invasion wouldn't be so bad. Every one of them has been wrong. And the fact of the matter is, we need to say right now that the Chinese Russian alliance is something we have to fight against, and we are not going to solve it by going over and cuddling up to Vladimir Putin. Look, Donald Trump said Vladimir Putin was brilliant and a great leader. This is the person who is murdering people in his own country, and now, not having enough blood, he's now going to Ukraine to murder innocent civilians and kidnap 20,000 children. And let me tell you, if you think that's where it's going to stop, if we give him any of Ukraine, next will be Poland. This is a guy who said, wait one second.
Oh no, Chris Christie is right about something. Chris Christie is correct. Putin has straight up said that his goal is recreating the Russian Empire, rebuilding the USSR. And Yeah, it doesn't stop at Ukraine. Ukraine is right next to a bunch of other former Soviet states. It's right next to Poland. And if Putin has the ability, he will continue to wage war and expand his territory. That has been proven time and time again. Remember, in 2014, Russians seized Crimea from Ukraine and then started claiming, oh, no, that's all we wanted. That's just the ethnically Russian Crimea. You know, we're not going to come for the rest of Ukraine. Well, here we are, 9 years later. They came for the rest of Ukraine, and they're not leaving until they get it or are defeated. And if they are not defeated here, they will do the same thing they're doing right now. In fact, a good candidate for this would be Transnistria, which borders Ukraine as well, and has repeatedly asked for Russian annexation. Here, maybe I can find you a map here. Yeah. Now, Transnistria, here, I'm gonna unflip for a second. Is part of Moldova, but it's basically the eastern section of Moldova here that is constantly asking, oh, Russia, we want to be part of Russia. Well, if they take Ukraine, well, they already are set up with a very nice line to invade Moldova. Like, there are just... The pieces are set up for Putin to do this, and he is not going to stop.
This is a guy in 1991 who said that was the darkest moment in world history.
Hey, John Doe.
When the Soviet Union fell. Listen, everybody, he wants to put the old band back together, and only America can stop it. And when I'm president, we will.
Governor Burgum, I want to get to Governor Burgum. He hasn't had a chance. I have a question I think you're going to really like. Or at least you...
Oh, yeah. It's been heavily infiltrated by Russian separatists, and Russia has, I think, like 5,000 or 6,000 troops stationed in Transnistria. So, like, they already have a military presence that's been built up in the Transnistrian region of Moldova.
You have experience in it, and we need to talk about America's farmers, because there is a foreign policy connection here. The U.S. and China are in this fierce economic competition. It's hurting American businesses, and there is blowback against American farmers because China then targets them in retaliation. How would you, as president, protect American farmers and ranchers from that kind of retaliation from a foreign government like China?
Well, first of all, we've got the best farmers and ranchers in the world right here in America. If they have a level playing field, they can outcompete anyone in the world. But this is part of...
That's irrelevant to the question, actually.
The larger issue that we're talking about here, which is we're in a Cold War with China. The Biden administration won't admit that. But we're also in an economic war through what we're doing with agriculture and energy. And
didn't Lukashenko show a war plan which implied Transnistria was next? Yeah, but like who knows exactly what like the plans will be once like if Putin is able to take over Ukraine, right? Like it's looking like a bigger if all the time, but we'll have to see. It would just be a very good candidate for them to invade next.
We're also in a war with them relative to cyber war. We get attacked every day in North Dakota, every state, every school district, our tribes, all being attacked every day by either China, Russia, Iran, or North Korea. And now we've got a Biden administration whose whole policy is appeasement. They're out there, creating the world, making it less safe. $6 billion they traded for 5 people. They've just now set a price on anyone's head who's a tourist from America, who's a student from America, for kidnapping. If you want more kidnapping, put a price on it. And then they're also helping Iran get to have more closer to nuclear weapon, which pushes all of the Middle East closer to China and Russia. The whole thing is absurd. And then, of course, we're going to give Ukraine to Russia, and then we're going to give Taiwan to China, and think that's a foreign policy. That will make our nation less successful, make us more poor, and at the core...
This guy isn't going to show up to the next Republican primary debate. You can forget his name. It's fine.
of all that is energy policy, because China imports 10 million barrels of oil a day. They're the largest importer in the world, and we've had 4 cabinet members from the Biden administration there this summer, and none of them talked about U.S. energy. The first one to go to each of those countries was Kerry to talk about the folly of the climate policy, which is making the world less stable. It's empowering dictators. It's not about climate change that we need worried about. It's about the Biden climate policies that are actually the existential threat to America's future.
Thank you.
Can I speak about
Governor Haley, Mexico's president called who supports sending U.S. military into the country, quote, scoundrels. Mexico is the United States' most important trade partner.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. The leadership of Mexico has already completely and utterly denounced the idea that they would allow the U.S. military to enter their country in order to wage war on the cartels. If U.S. troops are moved into Mexico, it would be a war with Mexico. And these people are just casually on stage. Like, half of the candidates on there are like basically proposing policies that would bring us into war with Mexico. It's insane.
And border security. You say you will send special operations to attack the cartels in Mexico. So, this means boots on the ground, drone strikes?
It means special operations. It's how we deal with our terrorists. And what you need to do is understand that Mexico's not being a good partner if we lost 75,000 Americans last year. Mexico's not being a good partner if they're letting the cartels get away with what they're getting away with. What we will do is we will make sure that we send in our special operations, and we will take out the cartels, we'll take out their operations, we'll take out anything that's doing it. But we're going to go after China, because China is the one sending the fentanyl in the first place. And we will end all normal trade relations until China stops sending fentanyl. And then we'll do the special operations, and we'll...
Yes, fentanyl is a Chinese op, of course.
Get it from both sides. This is where President Trump went wrong. He focused on trade with China. He didn't focus on the fact that they were buying up our farmland. He didn't focus on the fact that they were killing Americans. He didn't focus on the fact that they were stealing $600 billion in intellectual property. He didn't focus on the fact that they put a spy base off our shores in Cuba. They didn't focus enough on the fact that all of our law enforcement drones in America are...
Genuine question. Do you think Republicans generally know that fentanyl is an FDA-approved drug? Like, do you think that Republicans know that, like, fentanyl is legally shipped to America? Like, it's being sent here by China because companies are ordering it and hospitals use it. Like it's prescribed by doctors. It's weird to me that they're like, yes, China is nefariously sending us fentanyl, as if like China is responsible for shipping all of this illegally for like recreational use, when like China's just manufacturing it and they're sending it to hospitals in the US. God. Hey, Socially Maddie, how you doing? And yes, annex Blahaj. The next great war will be for Blahaj.
Chinese, and we've got all these little surveillance cells. We need to start focusing on what keeps Americans safe. That hasn't happened in a long time. As your president, I will make sure every American is safe, and we'll do whatever it takes to make that happen.
All right. I want to get to Senator Scott. You're all auditioning for the job as president of the United States. You want to earn these votes.
Oh, you silly goose. They're not auditioning for that job. They're auditioning for cabinet positions. Let's be real.
But the world's problems land in the Oval Office. During the presidential debates in the year 2000, neither Al Gore nor George W. Bush was asked about al-Qaeda. Yet, just 1 year later, al-Qaeda's attack on September 11th claimed...
Wait, for Dark Canuck, I can't tell if that's real. Were you on fentanyl for 6 months because you were injured by a moose? I mean, I'd believe it, but Oh, Sochi Inertia, hello.
Nearly 3,000 lives.
Good night,
And the
Storma.
farther we get from September 11th, the closer we are to September 10th. Senator Scott, you have no executive branch experience. What has prepared you to protect the nation from a major man-made national security crisis?
Well, one of the things I've had the good fortune of doing is serving on committees in the United States Senate, like
Hope you recovered,
Senate Armed
yeah.
Services Committee. I'm on the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, also on the Finance Committee and the Banking Committee. Talk about addressing the issue of fentanyl. I've written the legislation, passed it through the Banking Committee and the Senate that would freeze the assets.
I believe it. Moose are scary as hell.
And sanction the accounts of the Mexican cartels. There are weapons that we have within the arsenal that I was able to get past 23-0 in the polarizing Senate as it is. I've also understood without question the fact that if you look at the details before 9/11, there was information and intelligence that was available that suggested an attack was coming. Having the right intelligence partners with us is key to making sure that we prevent the next 9/11 from ever happening. Having that experience for the last 10 years is really important.
Is he saying 9/11 was an inside job? We had all the information, but it was kept secret in order to assist the Taliban to do 9/11.
And getting the job done.
30 seconds.
I saw it. Fentanyl flew those planes into the towers.
To you, Mr. Pence.
Well, I think you asked a question about executive experience, and I think it's vitally important. And I stand before you today as a candidate for president because I think this country's in a lot of trouble. And you hear the fire on the stage tonight. You hear the fire in all of our voices. And it's because Joe Biden has weakened this country at home and abroad. This is a time for those of us that have the experience, the tested experience, and a commitment to the conservative agenda that Ronald Reagan brought forward in this party of a strong national defense, standing with our allies, standing up to our enemies, supporting limited government and traditional values, need to step forward.
Understood.
Because, frankly, our party does face a time for choosing, as they said at the top of this debate, whether we're going to stand on the foundation of that conservative agenda that Ronald Reagan poured, or whether we're going to follow the siren song of populism unmoored to conservative principles. I'm the most experienced, most qualified, and most consistent conservative in this field, and I'm ready to lead America at home and abroad on day one.
Time for choosing to go to a break. Ilya.
We need to go to a commercial break. Reagan.
Oh man, the smattering of weak applause from the audience. Oh, Mike, you got rocked there. I'm sorry.
Built a coalition that lasted decades. Can any of these candidates do the same? We'll take that up when the debate continues.
Chat, are you enjoying the stream? We've been going for about 3.5 hours now. If you've been enjoying the stream, consider hitting that follow button over on Twitch, hit the subscribe button over on YouTube, and like the stream. Currently, folks, we need a few more likes. We need a few more likes.
Hugs, former WHITENAME.
White name. We are at 45 likes. We need to get 5 more likes minimum before the end of stream, okay? 5 more likes on the YouTube. I think we can do better than 45. I think we can hit 50, no problem. And I think we can even hit 69. That's the real goal for tonight. 69 likes on the YouTube stream. Let's go. All right? Go like the YouTube stream. And also, chat, if you are enjoying the stream a lot and would like me to live...
Monies to feed Jack. BWA.
Win B, thank you for the $5 dono, because I do need monies to live. And Kyrie, thank you for gifting a sub to Depor. That's very, very kind of you. This show literally brought to you by viewers like you. If you guys did not sub and dono to me, especially over on riverboat.gg, I would have a great deal of difficulty surviving, because this is what I do. I make this content for you guys. And do research streams and put out content about politics. And without your support, I would not be able to do this. I'd have to go and do something else. So consider dropping some subs or donos, because that is genuinely and deeply appreciated by me. I hope when you say grace, you name us individually. I do. I do. I don't say grace to God. I say grace to chatters who don't know. Yes. This content brought to you by viewers like you. Thank you. Steve L, thank you for boosting those numbers. Let's go. Yeah, we got any Oilers in the house? Hey, there we go. We hit 51. Now let's see if we can hit 69 by the end of stream. I believe in you, chat. For the meme. Inshallah, in trans ideology we trust. Chat, if we hit 69 likes on the stream, I'll take my hair down. And yeah, otherwise consider dropping some subs or donos, because that helps me to live, and I would like to continue doing that. I would show the ads that are on screen right now, but none of them are terribly interesting. They're all ads we've already seen. Nothing on par. Nothing will ever beat 9/11 coffee ad, though.
A little bit of BWA in my life. A little bit of BWA by my side. A little bit of BWA's all I need. A little bit of BWA's what I see. Mom BWA number 5.
Paladin, thank you for the $15 dono. And yes, we got some BWA energy in chat right now. Are you BWA enough, chat? Are you BWA enough to drop some subs and donos? Because that is the BWA spirit. Mom BWA number 5, indeed. All right, here we go. Back to the debate.
Welcome back to the Republican primary debate here at the Reagan Library. We've got a lot more issues to cover and a lot more questions to go. So let's dive right back in. We're here in California, where gas is nearing...
Also, just have to say, 53 viewers on YouTube. Good job, YouTube.
$6 a gallon. Oil is close to $100 a barrel again. You say, drill, baby, drill. But the courts won't let you. Mr. Ramaswamy, how would you bring down prices without immediate drilling?
Well, look, I think that we do have to run through the courts and get through that administrative state to make sure we're using the natural resources here at home. But here's the other thing that we can do that's easy.
It would take forever, Mr. Ramaswamy.
And it addresses the national debt as well as brings down prices. Put people back to work. We are using taxpayer money to pay people more to stay at home than to go to work. That is wrong. That contributes to our supply chain crisis.
That's just not true. This is just not true. I don't understand how they get away with saying these lies over and over again.
It contributes to inflation. That's the easiest way to unlock this economy. And here's the other thing. We have to put the Federal Reserve back in its place. This is an agency that has gone rogue. So in January 2026, when I have the opportunity as your next commander-in-chief, we will have a new chairman of the Federal Reserve who places priority on dollar stability. And then most importantly, send packing 75% of the administrative state. Reduce the federal employee headcount by 75%.
Oh my god, dude. Yeah, let's have the country's largest employer cut 75% of the workforce. Let's cut 75% of what makes America function as a government. Are you kidding me, dude? Like, I have to really underscore here, what he's talking about is just making sure America ceases to function. There is no way America functions with 75% staffing cuts. Legitimately insane.
Rescind 50% of unconstitutional federal regulations that are shackling businesses both large...
Oh, damn, that's crazy. You're going to rescind unconstitutional regulations? Are you going to battle each one of them through court? With what staff? You just laid off 75% of them.
Large and small, I've offered a very clear, practical plan to do it. That's how we unleash the economy.
Yes. You see, I have a very clear and practical plan to deal with all of, the immense amount of things I need to do. I'm going to cut off both my legs and both my arms, and that will allow me to do things even more efficiently, as I'll have less body to move. That's essentially his argument here, right? I will make myself a quadriplegic, and that will allow me to do far more, because I'll be eating the same number of calories and I'll have the same amount of energy, but a smaller body.
That's how we revive the integrity of a three-branch constitutional republic rather than this technocracy and aristocracy in the administrative state.
Yeah, because we all know you'll be able to get so much done by slashing 75% of the bureaucracy that manages a system that is able to meet the needs of 300+ million people.
Please. I think one of the signature accomplishments of our administration was in just a few short years, we achieved energy independence. We became a net exporter of energy for the first time in 70.
I've worked in the public-private sector stuff. You can't fire 20% of the workforce without the country collapsing, much less 75%. Oh yeah, I mean, not to mention the fact that the people you'd be firing with a 75% staffing cut would be a lot of the people who know exactly how to make things function. You know? When you get rid of the people who know how to make things work, like, you're boned. You've boned yourself. The people who are currently in those jobs, the pencil pushers, they're able to communicate that knowledge, like, when they need to move on. But otherwise, they're just maintaining their little ecosystems, and are part of a larger machine that they make work.
5 years.
By getting rid of them, the machine breaks.
Joe Biden declared a war on energy, which was no surprise because when Joe Biden ran for president, he said,
yeah, we always got haters socially, Maddie. It's true.
He was going to end fossil fuels, and they've been working overtime to do that ever since. If I'm president of the United States, we're going to open up federal lands. We're going to unleash American energy. We're going to have an all-of-the-above energy strategy. And I have a plan that actually would not only reclaim energy independence, but in 2006, America lost our position as the leading energy producer on Earth. I believe in the next 10 years, with the right policies and experienced leadership in the White House, we can reclaim our role as the leading energy producer on Earth, and that'll grow the American economy for generations to come.
Governor Haley, reaction to that, please.
As the only person who's leading an energy state, could I answer the energy question?
No, Governor Haley.
See, the first thing I'll say is what I saw at the
please let me talk. No.
United Nations is energy security is national security. We need a president that understands we have to partner with our producers and make sure that we have their backs. What you don't need is a president who is against energy independence. Ron DeSantis is against fracking. He's against drilling. He's been against, you did it. He always talks about what happens on day one. You better watch out, because what happens on day two is
Ron DeSantis looks like he's about to cry. Look at his face. He looks like that weirdly landed, right? Like Nikki Haley weirdly got him there.
when you're in trouble. Day two in Florida, you banned fracking, you banned offshore drilling, you did it on federal lands, and you took green subsidies that you didn't have to take.
Governor DeSantis, you were mentioned. You have the right to respond. 30 seconds.
Yeah. I just did a plan out in West Texas for American energy dominance. We're going to choose Midland over Moscow. We're going to choose the Marcellus over the Mullahs, and we're going to choose Bakken over Beijing, and we are going to lower your gas prices. We are.
Interestingly enough, here's a piece by the Tampa Bay Times, which you'll note is a Florida organization. And, DeSantis supports offshore drilling and fracking, just not in Florida. Weird. So strange. What a liar, dude. What a Weasley little liar, dude.
You're going to get that job done because it's important for our national security, it's important for jobs, and that's one of the best ways to drive down inflation.
Governor DeSantis, Governor DeSantis,
Governor DeSantis,
this question is for you.
Our voters enacted a constitutional amendment.
You banned it before they voted.
No, it's not true.
You banned it before they voted, and not only that, fracking wasn't. They didn't vote on fracking.
She's totally wrong. They voted it in. That's what we did. Onshore, we do it in Florida. We don't have as much as maybe West Texas, but we do it. But that was a constitutional. So that's just wrong. And let's just get real here. My plan will get the job done. We are going to be energy dominant, and that's what's going to happen.
And the voters didn't even vote on fracking, and you banned fracking.
We are moving on with this question for Governor DeSantis. Governor, excuse me, we cannot talk over each other. We must respect each other's time. My apologies for that. Governor DeSantis, this is your question. The Biden administration is hell-bent on student loan forgiveness, but you say colleges should be
Inshallah. Inshallah, brothers.
on the hook when graduates cannot pay their debt. How does that address the cost of college? The cost of college itself?
Because the colleges are going to have to make a decision. Do we expand the gender studies department, knowing some of those graduates may not have great learning opportunities? No, they're going to focus on the things that really matter. They're going to make different choices. They're going to try to graduate people in 4 years. I also just want to come back to something Dana asked last segment about 9/11.
Interesting. Notice by the way, like when they talk about gender studies, right? Are they gonna invest in gender studies? No, they're gonna invest in things that really matter. Are you saying gender doesn't really matter? Gender abolitionist Ron?
Because I was just at the 9/11 memorial with the families. My wife and I were invited. It's very touching to be there, and it affected my life because I ended up joining the military as a result of that. I had been a blue-collar kid, minimum wage in Dunedin, Florida. I ended up getting through Yale and Harvard Law School, and somehow came out more conservative than when I went in, and that is not easy to do. Had a lot of opportunities to make money, but I wanted to serve, and I'll never forget coming back on the plane from Iraq, landing in Coronado, California, North Island, and feeling that breeze off the Pacific Ocean and say, you know what? I am lucky to have been born an American, and I think being able to serve, and I'll be the first president elected since 1988 who's actually served overseas in a war, I think that's going to help me as Commander-in-Chief to know how you see these issues and understand that there are real lives at stake for people that wear the uniform.
And we know that Governor Haley's husband is serving right now as well, and we thank him for that. Senator Scott, the national debt has nearly doubled in your time in office. The approval rate for Congress is at a mere 19%. If this were a business, you'd probably all be fired in Washington, but you're here tonight looking for a promotion. In 2013, Governor Haley hired you for the Senate. I'd like you to tell her why you should be promoted to CEO of the nation instead of her.
Certainly.
I just really have to make it clear to conservatives, hey, governments aren't companies. Okay? Governments don't need to make a profit. The goal of government is to provide services that people need in your country. The idea that you should run the government like a company is actually terrible because companies rely on appeasing investors, and voters are not investors. The people who financially back the candidates are the investors. And the people who do that in America are companies. So if you want America to run like a company, well, guess what? That means the companies run America. You don't want that. You don't want that. You know that Walmarts run small towns into the dirt. You know that company towns die when they move jobs overseas. You know that. So why are you trying to settle for that for the entire country? You know that when your mom got sick with cancer, they nickeled and dimed her until she had nothing left? Like, you know that. So why are you trying to settle for that for America? I just don't get it. Kyrie, thank you for gifting JTF Chat a sub. I appreciate it, and I hope they do too. And also, folks, we are currently at 55 likes on the YouTube stream. Let's get it up there. We need 14 more likes on this stream. I believe in you, chat, okay? I believe in you.
One of the things I'd say is if you look at our national debt of $33 trillion, I would love to have an opportunity to have this country pass a balanced budget amendment. That would constrain the spending in Washington in the same fashion that it does in every state in our nation, number one.
I wonder if all of these fiscally responsible conservatives would bother to invest in auditing the Pentagon. As we all know, the Pentagon has never passed an audit. No audit has ever figured out how much money the Pentagon actually uses and where it goes. Might be worth investing in. Who knows? But again, most conservatives just want to issue a blank check to the American military.
Number two, if you want to actually reduce our national debt,
exactly, Darkstar Mike, I just saw your comment.
In order to grow our economy, you need to create about 10 million jobs to grow our economy at 5%. You can do that in 3 specific sectors. Number one, the energy sector. We could create between 3 and 3.5 million jobs if we unleashed all of our energy resources. America is we're the richest country if you combine coal, gas, and oil.
I wonder, though, if you unleashed coal, gas, and oil, if that might not have negative ramifications for the entire planet that would actually hurt the American people in the long term. I wonder if instead you could create even more jobs, 5 or 6 million jobs, by making the United States the mass producer of renewable energy, not just for, domestic use, but export that technology to other countries. We could become the global manufacturing hub for green energy, for solar panels, for wind turbines, for tidal energy, for modular nuclear reactors. We could do that, and it would create exponentially more jobs than just relying on oil, coal, and gas. Things that are going to, in the long term, kill our planet. If we mass-produced systems for generating energy from solar, wind, and tidal currents, along with nuclear energy reactors that can be installed as needed, this would absolutely set the United States up to be a leading producer in the world in perpetuity and create millions upon millions of much-needed jobs. You could revitalize dead company towns with stuff like this. You could revitalize places like West Virginia, okay? You could revitalize the manufacturing hubs and the coal towns by building these types of factories there. This is just such it's a no-brainer. But frankly, conservatives don't like change. It's inherent to the ideology. They want to conserve how things have been. So they don't want to adapt to new technology. They don't want to be at the cutting edge of new and improved things. They want things to stay the same. They want the status quo. And the issue is the status quo is killing us. And if we want to be, a powerhouse of an economy, if we want to be a world hegemon, whether or not you think that that's a good thing, then it has to come with adapting to the needs of the world. And what the world needs right now is not coal, oil, and gas. It needs renewable energy. Conservatives are so lame. True. And yes, conservatives want fascism. That's true.
Why not unleash all of our resources? Number two, we've lost 100,000 factories. 100,000 factories in the last 25 years. If we continued on my Made in America plan, we could bring jobs back to America in a similar fashion that we did when I wrote the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act.
Again, those jobs aren't coming back. Those factories are just being outsourced to places like Indonesia, where they can pay people dirt and reap all the profits for the people at the top. Those jobs aren't coming back. What could come back is renewable manufacturing, manufacturing solar panels, manufacturing wind turbines, all of that. That can be the new frontier of manufacturing because there is a need for that going forward indefinitely. And there is the economic possibility of establishing them here. Bringing back those factories that made things like buttons to the American manufacturing scene, that's not going to happen. Those factories are long gone, okay? They're not coming back. So weird hearing my mom go from reminding me all the time to turn the lights off, and now she's getting mad that the left is pushing for renewable energy instead of relying on fossil fuels that have killed the climate. Yeah, exactly. 100%.
Actually lowered the corporate tax from 35% to 21%, reshored or repatriated $1.7 trillion. We brought the unemployment rates for African Americans, Hispanics, and Asians to the lowest level in the...
Gamer G, that there are a few things that made me want to Roblox myself harder than the comment you just wrote in the chat, because I know you're probably right. There's going to be a John Doyle viewer who runs for president in like 3 or 4 election cycles. You're right.
The history of the country and a 70-year low for women.
Governor Haley, would you think you think?
Oh yeah, Steve L. 100%. Right. I think we can do fully electric cars. I think that transition is totally possible. I think jets will probably transition to hydrogen fuel, and it's actually really interesting. I know that there are a bunch of really advanced hydrogen like engine designs that are coming out that are, you know, being tested out with like drones, but could be scaled up for airplanes and aircraft. It's going to happen. Like all of this evolution is going to happen. The question is whether it is produced in America or if it's produced somewhere else. And we can set up policies that make it so that these things are produced here, or we can set up policies that basically force manufacturing elsewhere. So that's really the question we have right now. And Republicans overwhelmingly say, we don't want renewables produced in the United States. We want them produced elsewhere. And that's a missed opportunity. Hydrogen jets would be really cool too. 10,000%.
I think you would deserve the promotion over him.
Look, I appreciate Tim. We've known each other a long.
There isn't enough lithium on the planet to swap to all EVs. That's true. However, we did just find one of the largest lithium deposits in the world in America, in Nevada. And 2, we also know that on the horizon, there's a lot of really interesting battery tech, including sodium-ion batteries, which essentially are salt batteries. And if we can build functional salt batteries with comparable performance to lithium-ion batteries, then we're basically set for building infinity batteries.
Long time, but he's been there 12 years and he hasn't done any of that. He hasn't. They've only given 4 budgets on time in 40 years. He was part of that. He increased the national debt. He voted for the spending.
I would love to bring back dirigibles. Dirigibles were so based. However, as many of you know, if you are a longtime viewer of my channel, while I stand dirigibles, there is another form of movement that I would really like to bring back. Okay? I would really, really like to bring back the better version of the dirigible. Okay? Trains? No. Are you kidding me? I mean, trains are great. I love trains. Guys, I've talked about it. Ground effect vehicles, okay? Ground effect vehicles. They are the coolest things, all right? They are literally the coolest things. The Chronoplans. The Chronoplans, okay? The best technology that that the Russians ever invented. The Chronoplan, all right? Look, We can make it happen. We can build the Akronoplan fleet that will transport goods around the world. All right? It is the best technology. This is a meme, isn't it? Unironically, no, because the issue with the Akronoplans and ground effect vehicles in general is they work better the bigger you build them. So you can actually build just colossal transport crafts, and then just with the speed of an airplane, but the efficiency of a ship, sail goods around the world. And they're really fucking cool. They're really fucking cool. The main issue is it's hard to pilot Akronoplans because you have to maintain your vehicle within the ground effect. And the other aspect is that most people haven't built big enough ones to actually fully utilize the ground effect to like be abreast of the waves enough to keep them safe, right? But if you build them big enough, they work better the bigger you build them. So basically, yeah, they are really, really cool. They are really, really cool. Show the video. All right, just real quick. Just real quick. Here's a the largest Akronoplan ever built by the Russians. The video footage is terrible quality, but like they do work.
This Soviet creation has been dubbed the Caspian Sea Monster. Its designers believe the Akronoplan, a low-flying ground effect craft, could ultimately replace cargo ships and ferries. More than 300 feet long and 130 feet high, the Akronoplan was first sighted several years ago by U.S. spy planes as a...
So anyway, it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. That looks cool. It's so cool. Yeah. They're very complicated to build and very expensive, but my pipe dream is getting those off the ground to like replace our shipping industry with those. Oh yeah, no, we have the ability to make things like this, Transgirl Jade. We just don't because like they're an unproven technology. However, with the advent of AI and like navigational systems that can be automated, it is entirely possible to automate a Akronoplan functioning within ground effect and then program them to transport goods, you know? There are significant downsides to them, yes, but those downsides are reduced by building them bigger. So the solution is just to build a really big Akronoplan. AI is BS? Well, no, it's not. It can fly. We already fly our planes using navigational systems. Like a lot of piloting in air travel is automated. Yeah, exactly, GamerG. It's just a matter of like using more advanced navigational systems to do harder navigation. Part of the issue is that if you were on long flights on an Akronoplan, you had to have pilots like swap in and out because you had to maintain the vehicle in the ground effect. So with improved navigational systems that can keep it within the ground effect, it'd be far easier to pilot them. Are both pilots allowed to sleep? No. Generally, that's why you have a pilot and co-pilot. Anyway, we've totally been derailed by Akronoplans. I just wanted to remind chat that I still love Akronoplans. That hasn't changed. I just haven't talked about them as much as I used to.
You voted
he has
for
made sure that the borders
actually
are open
asked
and they
for a
haven't done
gas tax
anything. Look at
increase
everything
in South Carolina.
12 years. Where have you been? Where
I
have
voted
you
no
been,
on all.
Tim?
I voted on
12
most of
years.
those things.
We've waited,
I have voted
and nothing has happened.
Here's what you've
12
done.
years.
Here's the thing that I just find interesting.
Ron, let me finish
All
it
these
first.
guys have said
Here's the
things,
fact.
and I appreciate a lot of the things they're saying.
Nikki
I'm
Haley.
the only one up here who's gotten in the big fights and has delivered big victories for the people of Florida. And that's what it's all about. You can always talk, but when it gets hot in there, when they're shooting arrows at you, are you going to stand up for parents' rights, to keep the state free? Are you going to be able to do all those things? And in the state of Florida, because of our success, the Democratic Party lies in ruins. We have won the big fights. We have turned our state into a Republican state. People respond to leadership. I've done it while others have talked about it.
CEO, we actually have a CEO in the White House, which is what I think we need. If I may just briefly interject here, we need a zero-based budgeting. That's the way businesses are actually run. Start with zero as the baseline for the budget, and then see what's actually necessary. There isn't a blue state or a red state in this union that does it. The federal government doesn't do it. But successful companies, including the ones that I've built as a CEO, will do it. And I think we need a CEO in the White House to get that done.
Governor Burgum runs a state that way. Yes,
tech
go
questions,
ahead.
you didn't ask the only guy that's been in tech. You have energy questions, you don't ask anything. But I'm just going to say right now, when you say nobody else has done it, the energy plans that have all been announced in the last month by these other folks on stage, we're already doing it in North Dakota. The border plans they're already talking about, we've got troops down at the border flying helicopter missions from North Dakota, from San Diego to the Gulf Coast, trying to stop transnational criminal organizations from inflicting the invasion and the mass casualties in our state. And on the energy policy, we're already doing it. And it's not saying when nobody else done the big fights. North Dakota was leading the charge. We won the battle to get the Biden administration, who was ignoring the law. They were the first administration since Truman that wasn't holding the quarterly required lease sales, and we won that in federal court. WOTUS, we won that in federal court. We're fighting the Biden administration on 20 fronts. To say that nobody's fighting the big fights, just look at the record of what we're doing right now.
Oh yeah, Vivek did a pump and dump scheme with his company. Yeah.
Energy, economy, national security. I've been talking about it since day one, and now finally good. We're having the conversation about it, but we've got the answer in North Dakota.
We've got the answer in North Dakota. We've deported hundreds of millions of Canadians.
Burgum, let's talk big government. This question's for you. Big government keeps getting bigger. 1/5 of all new jobs this year have been created by the government. Governor Burgum, you say you want to shrink the size of government, but it has been a century since any president has done that. Why would you be any different?
Well, because we've done it in North Dakota. When I took office, we shrunk the state budget general fund by 27% in the first 4 months I was in office, and all the trains still running on time. Why? Because you had a business leader that was actually there. Inside of every government job, there's 10 or 20% of mind-numbing, soul-sucking work that even the state and federal employees don't want to do, and you can engineer that work out of the job. That would free up right there 20% of 2 million civilian employees. And by the way, we've got 10 million jobs open. They'd have plenty to do, and they could be generating taxes instead of being paid by taxes. This is totally possible to do it if you have.
Yeah, just throw them out and they'll get jobs in the private sector. What? Dude. I mean, I'm sure they would adapt over time, but like I don't know. I think there might be a bit of a market shock if you just cut 20% of government jobs. Did that fucker just use the trains run on time unironically? Yes. Yes, he did.
Somebody that understands, because having worked in technology for 30 years, everything we had to do was to be better, faster, and cheaper the next day. That's what we can do in government. That's what we're doing in North Dakota.
All right. Governor DeSantis, I want to ask you about...
Why do Republicans just want to cripple our government? Honestly, it's it's what I talked about in the 2025 Project 2025 video. If you missed that, check it out. Great video. But one of the main ethos components of current conservatism is that they abhor the idea that these pencil pushers who are overseeing regulations and the day-to-day functioning of our government possess any kind of power, because to them those people represent roadblocks to getting their kind of authoritarian agendas passed. And so instead what they would like to do, instead of like working with the system we have, with the regulations we have to do new and better things, they want to destroy that that entire system. They want to get rid of the people who are inconvenient to their plans. They want to get rid of the regulations that are preventing their donors from, like, putting toxic lead into water supplies. And they want to basically streamline the government so that the people at the top of it have the maximum amount of power possible. Over time, of course, this would lead to an authoritarian government, but that's okay because they, in their delusion, these conservatives, believe that they'll just have the right guy in power. You know, as long as they have their guy with authoritarian power, they're not really too fussed about the lack of democracy. You know, and this is what you see time and time again when you see these Christian nationalists talking about, you know, their bid for political power. It's that they want to get rid of the deep state, and they want to supplant that with an authoritarian regime that will champion Christian ideals. And they aren't too fussed about how that happens as long as it's their guy in charge. But part of that is cutting the administrative state down to the bone, even if it comes at the cost of functionality. Isn't strip mining for the necessary materials / ore for green technology bad for the environment? Yeah, but so is strip mining for basically any ore that we use. So honestly, I would prefer green outcomes to the things we already do, as opposed to the non-green outcomes for the strip mining we already do. Hey, Vinegar Nuts, how you doing?
That's something that I think is on a lot of Republicans' minds. This election could come down
so
to
inertia.
less
I got
than
you guys.
50,000 votes in 3 states. Abortion was on the ballot in 6 states in 2022. Republicans lost all of them. Next year, abortion will likely be on the ballot in Arizona. That is a must-win.
Look at his face, dude. How can anyone take this guy seriously? Can you give me thigh burns? Maybe.
Win state. Governor DeSantis, how are you going to win over independent, pro-choice voters in Arizona?
Same way we did in Florida. We won the greatest Republican victory in a governor's race in the history of the state, over 1.5 million votes. We were winning places like Miami-Dade County, Palm Beach, that nobody thought was possible because we were leading with purpose and conviction. I reject this idea that pro-lifers are to blame for midterm defeats. I think there's other reasons for that. The former president, you know, he's missing in action tonight. He's had a lot to say about that. He should be here explaining his comments to try.
Maybe in the future we can mine astral bodies, then leave the Earth to recover. Yeah, wouldn't be. I think that would be great. I think we're actually pretty close to being able to do like space mining. Obviously, I think we'll probably be mining like the moon at first, but eventually we'll probably be like towing asteroids into like Earth orbit to like mine them. I think we're like on the verge of like some really cool innovations in space mining.
Try to say that pro-life protections are somehow a terrible thing. I want him to look into the eyes and tell people who've been fighting this fight for a long time. My wife and I,
unfortunately, I've never farted.
At the gravesite of President and Mrs. Reagan, and I noticed that there was a quote where it says, "Every single person has purpose and worth." We're better off when everybody counts. And I think we should stand for what we believe in. I think we should hold the Democrats accountable for their extremism, supporting abortion all the way up until the moment of birth. That is infanticide, and that is wrong.
Let me ask Governor Christie. Governor Christie, do you think that Republicans...
Yes, I will.
Okay, Governor Christie, do you think that Republicans can do that in Arizona if this referendum is on the ballot there?
Yeah, because I did it in New Jersey, Dana. You know,
Then why are all these other states losing?
Well, because they don't have leaders in those states who are leading the fight the way it should
Spitfire.
be led.
It's a dress.
And in fact is, look, I was a governor here of the only blue state that's represented up here. This is where the fight is really tough for Republicans, and those are the states that we're going to have to try to win if we're going to win the White House back. And what we did was 14 times, Dana, in 8 years, I vetoed Planned Parenthood.
Oh, Steve L. Nightbot over on YouTube, like the auto mod. can be a little bit authoritarian over there. I still need to tweak it a bit, but no worries about the all caps.
Funding 14 times. No one else gets it that much. The Democrats just kept sending it to me, and I kept saying no because I believe in life, but I also believe in states' rights. And I think we fought hard against Roe versus Wade for decades to say that states should make these decisions. So we're going to have those fights in the states. But what you need is a leader who can talk to people and make them understand that if you're pro-life, you have to be pro-life for the entire life, not just the 9 months in the womb. And we talked a lot about fentanyl tonight, and we haven't spoken one moment about treatment. But we need to make sure that for the drug-addicted 16-year-old on the floor of the county lockup, her life is precious too. And we,
you know, by like having like the life-saving drugs available, maybe give them safe places to do drugs so that if they overdose or have something laced with something, they can just not die and have medical help available to them. You know, like that'd be pretty cool.
We need to be providing treatment to cure this as a disease that it is. If you're pro-life, you got to be pro-life for the entire life. We start talking like that, they're going to do what I did in the blue state, which was get reelected with 61% of the vote and won 70% of independents and 51% of Latinos because I told them the truth from my heart.
Thank you. Vice President Pence, the latest Univision poll
Oh,
found
Dark
that
Canuck, I appreciate
73%
that.
of Latino voters think the Republican Party doesn't care about or is being hostile toward them, the Hispanic community. Only Governor DeSantis has translated his campaign into Spanish.
Yeah, well, you know what, Dark Canuck, you're promoted. There you go. Boom.
How will you reach out to Latino voters?
Well, I promise you that we're going to continue to build bridges to every community in this country. And I'm incredibly proud of that tax cut and tax reform bill. I worked on Capitol Hill to help get that bill passed into law, the largest tax cut in American history. We saw literally the lowest unemployment ever recorded for Hispanic Americans, the lowest unemployment ever recorded for African Americans, 50-year low for women. So I think the President of the United States needs to be a champion for the American dream for every American. It begins with the unborn and the aged and the infirm. And it begins with every ethnic group in this country. And I promise you, if I'm President of the United States, I'll be a champion. I'll be a champion for the American dream, for Hispanic Americans, and for every American. So help me God.
Senator Scott, reaction?
Yes, there's no doubt that if you lead by example, it's the best way to get the job done. If you look at my office in the Senate, my chief of staff is the only Hispanic female chief of staff in the Senate. I hired her because she was the best.
All of these people, by the way, rail against diversity, equity, and inclusion, and yet absolutely willing to do stuff like this.
Highest qualified person we have. What we need are leaders who lead by example. And I will simply say, I would love to finish my conversation with Nikki as it relates to the job that needs to get done.
Yeah, TKC strike,
Nikki
probably not.
offered a 10% gas tax increase in South Carolina. Talk about someone who has never seen a federal dollar she doesn't like. 10 cents on the gallon in South Carolina. As the UN ambassador, you literally put $50,000 on curtains.
Hey, you can, guys, you can sexually harass me a little bit in Twitch chat, but if you're gonna start throwing around racial slurs, I'm sorry, you're gone instantly. I can handle stuff directed towards me, but if you're gonna be throwing slurs around towards other people, get the fuck out.
And a $15 million subsidized location. Next.
You got bad information. First of all, I fought the...
Oh, Erica, you could be a mod on YouTube. Modded. Standard mod. Let's go.
Gas tax in South Carolina multiple times.
It's a mod town over there.
Just go to YouTube.
Against the establishment.
Just go to
and
YouTube
you want
and
to
see
know
for
what
yourself.
that...
Oh shit, Dark Canuck, I didn't know you modded for Zan, Luxander, and the Pillow. I don't know who Meme Joy is, but I know the first three. They're all really great.
Was when they wouldn't pass the gas tax, the establishment and the companies wanted me to do it so much that I said the only way I will.
Can I be a mod? No, not yet.
All you have to do is go watch Nikki Haley on YouTube.
If you will give me 3 times the deduction in income tax, then I will look at your gas tax, which is why it didn't happen.
Exactly, Ron.
Secondly, on the 50 million.
Here is a nice part.
Secondly, on the curtains, do your homework, Tim, because Obama bought
boiled
those
peanuts.
curtains. It's in the.
Well, if I ever need a sub, if I ever need a mod in Twitch chat, there you go. Nice fart, Nani? No, I said a nice. Wait, did I say the word fart? Very knifey duck. Nah, I'm good. Do I need subs, though? I do need subs. Drop some subs or donos over on Riverboat Jack, because we always looking for Oilers. Oilers?
State Department. Did you send them back? You're the one that works in Congress.
Oh my gosh.
You get it
You
done.
hung them on your curtains.
They were there before I even showed up at the residence. You are scrapping. You are scrapping.
I'm not scrapping.
You know
Here's the fact. Here's the fact, though.
I cut taxes. I loaded up our
You wanted a gas tax increase, and then you wanted the...
Vage, chat's full of subs already. True.
Ladies and gentlemen, we do not intend to go ahead like this. In fact, we're about to take a commercial break. We'll have more of the second Republican debate live from the Reagan Presidential Library in just a few moments.
Do you trust our government and where the...
Hello, chat. We have officially hit 59 likes on the YouTube stream, but you know what? I still hunger for more likes. I need to hit 69 likes, chat. And again, if we hit 69 likes, I'll let my hair down. We'll have ourselves a fun little time. But until then, hello. How we all doing? Hit the like button over on YouTube, you silly billies. And consider hitting the subscribe button too, as long as you're over there. I mean, it's like right there. And consider, folks, hitting the follow button over on Twitch. I'd very, very much appreciate it. As well as dropping some subs or donos, because this stream is literally made possible by viewers like you. If you would like to support me being able to live, I would very much appreciate subs or donos. Yeah. Do we got any Oilers? Please remember to like the stream. Indeed. Feel like I would probably be considered a bratty bottom. Wait, did we just hit 67 likes on the stream? Did we? Did we really? Aw, shit, we're at 67 likes. Let's go. We only need 3 more. Let's go, folks. You guys are about to break a record for liking stream. Usually you guys hover around like between like 30 and 50. Let's go. I believe in you, chat. I believe in chat's ability to click on buttons. You do it every day. I know it. We're at 68 likes. Are we at 69? Are we at 69? Oh my god. Oh my god, are we doing it? 69? Doing it? On my screen it says 68. Damn it. There we go. I'm gonna print screen on that one. There we go. Hell yeah, chat, we did it. 69, baby. Took a moment to update. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. And crop. Let's cue the sax music. About I was gonna do Careless Whisper sax music, but that would definitely be copyright. Ba 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 da 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 ba ba da 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 ba da ba da 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 ba ba da 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 da. Sad because I like Hair Up. I'll always be up again on a new day. All right, here we go.
And welcome back to the final minutes. I could go another hour, but we only have a few minutes. And candidates, it's now obvious that if you all stay in the race, former President Donald Trump wins the nomination. None of you have indicated that you're dropping out. So,
January Embers? Who's
which
that?
one of you on stage tonight should be voted off the island?
I do like my hair up.
Please use your marker to write your choice on the notepad in front of you. 15 seconds. Start.
Are you kidding me? They're debating about whether or not to be president. What is this?
Now, of the people on the stage, who should be? I'm absolutely serious.
With all due respect, I mean, we're here, like, we're happy to debate.
Does that make Gremlo gender bent Jack? Yes, it does.
Nobody wants to participate.
Let's do some questions. Let's talk about the future of the country.
Okay, that's actually kind of cool that they all refuse to do that.
I'll answer. I want to be clear.
Let me ask you this.
If I may.
Let me ask you something.
Yeah.
Then if you won't answer that question, let me ask you this one.
Yeah.
What is your mathematical path,
Yes.
Governor DeSantis, in order to try to beat President Trump, who has a commanding and enduring lead in this race?
So polls don't elect presidents. Voters elect presidents.
Right.
And we're going to take the case of the people in these early states. We're going to do it in a state-by-state direction. And why? Because as Reagan said in his day, this is our time for choosing. We are not getting a mulligan on the 2024 election. Republicans have lost 3 straight elections in a row. We were supposed to have a red wave with inflation at 9%. It crashed and burned. Not in Florida, it didn't. We delivered it in Florida. And so we've got to choose right. We've got to win. And we need somebody that's going to be able to serve 2 terms. So in January of 2023, they'll be able to address the nation saying, we turned the economy around, we secured the border, and we fended off the threat from communist China. As your president, I will get that job done.
Governor Christie, I believe I did see you write something. Governor Christie, I believe, excuse me, Governor Christie, I believe I did see you write something on the card.
No, no, but I'll certainly tell you.
Go.
Okay.
Yeah. Look, I think I've been the only one on this stage who's been clear about this. I vote Donald Trump off the island right now. And the reason I vote him off the island,
but any of the people on the stage,
you know what? Every person on this stage has shown the respect for Republican voters to come here to express their views honestly, candidly, and directly, and to take your questions honestly. I have respect for every man and woman on this stage because they've done it. Vivek, put your hand down for a second, would you? I still got time, dude. So chill out. Here, look. This guy has not only divided our party, he's divided families. all over this country. He's divided friends all over this country. I've spoken to people, and I know everyone else has, who have sat at Thanksgiving dinner or at a birthday party and can't have a conversation anymore if they disagree with Donald Trump. He needs to be voted off the island, and he needs to be taken out of this process.
Can we give Vivek 15 seconds?
All right, you've got 15 seconds, Vivek.
Look, I have a different view on this. I think Trump was an excellent president, but the America First agenda does not belong to one man. It does not belong to Donald Trump. It doesn't belong to me. It belongs to you, the people of this country. And the question is, who's going to unite this country and take the America First agenda to the next level? When we rallied behind the cry to make America great again, we did not just hunger for a single man. We hungered for the unapologetic pursuit of excellence. So yes.
So you admit for hungering after a single man? I don't know, man. Sounds a bit homosexual.
I will respect Donald Trump and his legacy because it's the right thing to do. But we will unite this country to take the America First agenda to the next level, and that will take a different generation to do it.
That does it. I repeat, that does it. For the second Republican primary debate, live from the Ronald Reagan Presidential Library.
Thank you to all the candidates. We've loved having you here tonight, and we will see you out on the campaign trail.
Have a great evening. Thank you for joining us, everyone. Good night. Buenas noches.
Hi, welcome to Hannity.
All right. Well, we did it. We made it through. We made it through. Overall thoughts, Vivek it really seemed like people had knives out for Vivek. He was taking shots from like Mike Pence, Nikki Haley. He was fending off a great deal of attacks. I think he came out looking pretty unscathed by a lot of them. I think the big loser of the night was Ron DeSantis, to be honest. Like, Nikki Haley absolutely nailed him on fracking in Florida. And I do have to say, I think he just came out looking absolutely terrible, you know? Which is great, you know? I do think I think that really at this point it's just kind of a free-for-all. Like, DeSantis doesn't have the commanding lead he thought he was going to have, and a lot of pundits thought he was going to have. I don't know. I liked Chris Christie as kind of like the wild card, just like throwing out punches, going after Trump, and being the closest on the stage to being a sane candidate, you know? Tim Scott looked terrible. Tim Scott, like, did 9/11 trutherism. He was basically saying, like, black families were done dirty by being given money. Like, Nikki Haley, like, was just kind of the assassin of the night. She lurked in the shadows. You forgot she was there, and then she leapt out to strike, you know? Yeah, Doug Burgum was a non-entity. Hey, Doodleburb, how you doing? What are the white supremacists saying about each candidate? The white supremacists are pretty, you know, on board with all of them. Doodle-based, indeed. As I pointed out earlier, DeSantis really did get lucky, and I mean wildly lucky. Greg Abbott in my home state of Texas kind of did too, but not quite to the same extent. Yeah, like, the more people see of Ron DeSantis, the, like, less positively they think about him, you know? Like, he has negative charisma. He's a charisma black hole. And, like, Vivek was kind of nailed in the previous debate as, like, a Chat GPT candidate. He's basically, like, the ideal Republican, but, like, he has no actual conviction. He's just saying what he knows will, like, rally up the base. And, frankly, that's proven a strength to him, but it's not going to be enough for him to actually, like, win the election at all.